Welcome to this English masterclass. You are going to learn phrasal verbs, idioms, and expressions to help you sound like a native. You'll learn how to speak fast and pronounce all your new vocabulary just like a native. And this will help you understand fast-speaking natives as well. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Here's how this masterclass will work. You'll listen to a sentence 3 times and you need to write down exactly what you hear. And after, you'll learn how to use the expression just like a native. Let's get started with the first listening exercise.
Claire, let's get a move on. Claire, let's get a move on. Claire, let's get a move on.
So, how did you do with that clip? Did it sound fast? He said, Claire, let's get a move on. First, let's talk about let's. This is a contraction of let us. Let's. Native speakers always say let's. And this is the imperative verb tense, which is used for orders or instructions. So this is given as an instruction. Let's get a. Now, native speakers, it sounds like we speak fast because we take individual words, we don't add pauses, and we pronounce them as one word. Get a sounds like getta. Move on, you have the on move. Now on is a vowel, so we can transfer that sound and we can say these two like one word. Move on, move on. Now, what does this mean? Let's get a move on. This is an idiom, and it means to begin moving faster or quickly. It's the same as saying hurry or hurry up. You could say to your friend, the movie starts in less than 1 hour. Let's get a move on. Let's hurry. Let's move faster. Or you can say, if we're going to finish the project on time, we need to get a move on. So now you know how to combine your sounds so you can speak faster, and you know what this expression means, so it's your turn to practice. I want you to imitate my pronunciation, and I want you to say it out loud, and I'll say it 3 times. Let's get a move on. Let's get a move on. Let's get a move on.
Claire, let's get a move on.
Let's get a move on.
Let's get a move on.
Let's try this again. I'll play the clip 3 times.
Just give me a shout when you're done. Just give me a shout when you're done. Just give me a shout when you're done.
How'd you do with this one? Just give me a shout when you're done. Let's talk about how to combine those sounds together. Give me. Do you know what a native speaker says? Gimme, gimme, gimme. Now, we can also take that article a and add it and say gimme-a, gimme-a, gimme-a. Native speakers also reduce sounds, so we say them very unstressed. So instead of saying your, which is very stressed, I need to open my mouth wide, your, I can just say your. And the sound is unstressed, it's more in my throat, your. Now let's talk about what this means. Give me a shout. What does this mean? Maybe you know what the verb to shout, which means to shout, but what about a shout as a noun? Well, this simply means call me, because a shout is a phone call. So give me a shout is the same as saying call me. So if I'm leaving the house or the office, I could say to the people there, give me a shout if you need anything. I'm leaving, but call me if you need anything. Give me a shout. This is commonly used with a when clause. Give me a shout when you land. So notice when plus present simple, when you land. Give me a shout when you land. Call me when you land. In this case, it was give me a shout when you're done. You are done. So to be done, this means to be finished. So this means the task is complete. I could text you or give you a shout and say, I'm done with the report. I'm finished with the report. The report is complete. I could also say I'm done working on the report. So notice you need your gerund verb. I'm done working on the report. Or I could simply say I'm done. So now it's your turn to practice. I'll say it 3 times and I want you to repeat it out loud. Just give me a shout when you're done. Just give me a shout when you're done. Just give me a shout when you're done.
Just give me a shout when you're done.
So if he pops out, give me a shout.
I'll give you a shout when we're done.
Let's try this again. I'll play the clip 3 times.
Sorry, give me a sec. Sorry, give me a sec. Sorry, give me a sec.
How'd you do it this one? I'm sorry, give me a sec. This should have been easy for you because you just learned give me, gimme, and give me a, gimme a, gimme a. Now, what does sec mean? Give me a sec? What's a sec? It is short for second. We take the word second and we shorten it to sec. Notice that K sound, sec. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. We use this to say, give me a short period of time. So that might be a few seconds, or it could also be a few minutes. I could say, give me a sec to find your file. And then I take, hopefully, just 3 to 5, maybe 10 seconds to find your file, and you're waiting. Give me a sec to find your file. This is commonly used to get someone's attention and to ask if they have time right now. So you could knock on my door and say, Jennifer, do you have a sec? So you're asking me, do you have a few minutes? Do you have a few seconds? Do you have a sec? Or maybe you could text your colleague and say, where are you? The meeting started 5 minutes ago. And then you reply back and say, I'll be there in a sec. I'll be there in a short period of time. Now it's your turn to practice this one. I'll say it 3 times. I'm sorry, give me a sec. I'm sorry, give me a sec. I'm sorry, give me a sec.
Sorry, give me a sec.
Do you have a sec?
I'll be there in a sec.
Let's try this one more time. I'll play the clip 3 times.
I still haven't figured it out. I still haven't figured it out. I still haven't figured it out.
Did this one sound fast to you? It was pretty fast. He said, and I still haven't figured it out. Again, it sounds fast because we're taking individual words and combining them together. Figured it out sounds like figured it out. So you need to take the end sound from one word and transfer it to the next. Figured it out. And then it has to sound like one word. Figured it out. Figured it out. Figured it out. Figured it out. To figure something out, most students know what this means. It means to understand or solve something. As a question, I could ask you, have you figured it out? Now I can also add yet. Have you figured it out yet? This is in the present perfect verb tense. So if you use he or she as the subject, you need to change have to has. Has he, has she figured it out yet? To reply positively, you can say, I have figured it out. You can add already. I have already figured it out. And then for he or she has already figured it out. When you reply positively, this is a completed past action, but there's a result in the present. So maybe the result is, so now the client won't fire us because I've figured it out. I've solved the issue or the problem. But in the clip, it was negative. I haven't figured it out. And then you can add yet at the end. For he or she, you need hasn't, which is the contraction. He hasn't figured it out yet. This shows that it's an ongoing process. You're still trying to figure it out. But did you notice that the speaker said, I still haven't figured it out? So the speaker didn't use yet, they used still. And notice that placement. It's subject, I, still, and then haven't, or if it's he or she, he still hasn't figured it out. Using still instead of yet, it emphasizes that it's ongoing. And it also emphasizes the difficulty of the task. So it sounds like he's struggling with this. You might say, we've been working on this bug for hours and we still haven't figured it out. So it really emphasizes the struggle. I could reply back and say, okay, give me a shout when you figure it out. Because remember, you need the present simple after that when statement. Give me a shout when you figure it out. Or I could be less patient and put pressure on this person and say, well, let's get a move on. The client will be here in an hour. Now it's your turn to practice. I'll say it 3 times and you need to repeat after me. I still haven't figured it out. I still haven't figured it out. I still haven't figured it out.
And I still haven't figured it out.
If you haven't figured it out yet.
No one's figured it out yet.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, the movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. It was a cakewalk. It was a cakewalk. It was a cakewalk. Did you get this one? I said it was a cakewalk. Let's talk about was a. You can combine these together and it sounds like was za. So notice I'm linking the sounds and I'm taking that was, but it's a z, it's a voiced sound. So I'm going to transfer that sound to ah. So you hear za, za, was a. It was a cakewalk. It was a cakewalk.
This thing was a cakewalk, right?
What does this mean to be a cakewalk? This means that something is simple or effortless. You might be familiar with the idiom to be a piece of cake. When you describe something as a piece of cake, it means simple or effortless. This is the same idiom, it's just slightly changing it to be a cakewalk.
Piece of cake.
Hopefully, you would say learning English becomes a cakewalk when you have a great teacher. If you agree, then put cakewalk, put cakewalk in the comments. Remember that you have to conjugate your verb to be with the subject and the time reference. This was a cakewalk in the past simple. This is a cakewalk in the present simple. This will be a cakewalk in which verb tense? The future simple. And this has been a cakewalk. Which verb tense? The present perfect. And also remember the article. It's always a cakewalk. This was a cakewalk. Let's try this again, a little more advanced. I'll say it 3 times. It's a Band-Aid fix. It's a Band-Aid fix. It's a Band-Aid fix. Did you hear this one? I said it's a Band-Aid fix. Of course, it's is our contraction of it is, it's. Band-Aid is 2 words, but to pronounce them like one, I'll take that D and transfer it to the vowel. Band-Aid, dade, Band-Aid, Band-Aid, Band-Aid fix. A Band-Aid fix is a temporary solution to a problem. To understand this expression, you need to know what a Band-Aid is. This is a Band-Aid. This is the brand name for bandage, but the brand name is Band-Aid, and native speakers just refer to bandages as Band-Aids.
I put Band-Aids on it, but...
Remember, this means a temporary solution to a problem. You could say, filling the potholes is a Band-Aid fix. This entire road needs to be repaved.
But it's just a Band-Aid fix.
Now, there are many temporary solutions to help you improve your English, but not all of them are permanent. For example, relying on ChatGPT to write for you is a Band-Aid fix. Remember the article, our noun is a fix, and then Band-Aid is an adjective, a Band-Aid fix. And although a Band-Aid fix means a temporary solution, you can't say a Band-Aid solution. You must always say a Band-Aid fix because that's the word choice in this expression. Let's try this again, a little more difficult. I'll say it 3 times. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't rest on your laurels. Did you get this one? I said you can't rest on your laurels. Native speakers often pronounce T as a flap T, which means we don't push out that puff of air because it forces us to take a pause. You can't. So I don't say you can't. I say you can't. You can't rest on. So here you hear that T because I'm linking the 2 words together and I'm transferring the T sound onto the vowel. Rest on, ton, rest on, rest on. Your is pronounced in spoken English as an unstressed your. You can't rest on your laurels. This could be a hard word to pronounce depending on your native language because we have an R and an L. Lor-els. Lor-els. So divide the sounds until you're comfortable with each sound. Lor-els. And then you can pronounce it as one. Laurels. Laurels. The expression is to rest on your laurels. We use this to say that you shouldn't become too comfortable or stagnant with past achievements, past successes. You should set new goals. You should push yourself further. You shouldn't rest on your laurels. For example, the author wrote an international bestseller, but then rested on her laurels. So she had a past accomplishment, past success with this international bestseller that she wrote, but because she rested on her laurels, it means that she didn't set new goals, she didn't push herself further, so she didn't write anything after that international bestseller. She just remained successful based on her past success, but didn't achieve any new success. Let's think about this in a language learning context. Maybe you have a past success with a high score on an exam. It's amazing that you got a band 9 on your IELTS last year, but you can't just rest on your laurels. So this sounds like after your amazing accomplishment, your band 9, you stopped trying to improve. You stopped trying to improve even more. You just rested on your laurels. You had that past success and you thought you were done with language learning, which of course isn't the case. So to help motivate this friend who's resting on their laurels, you can say subscribe to JForrest English and keep improving, keep learning, keep growing. Don't rest on your laurels. Let's try this one more time, the most advanced listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. I'm going out for a bit. I'm going out for a bit. I'm going out for a bit. Did you get this one? I said, I'm going out for a bit. Of course, I'm is our contraction of I am, I'm. I'm going out. Again, we have that flap T because I'm not going to say out. I'm going out. I'm going out. Now, many native speakers will combine all 3 of these together and they'll pronounce for as more of an unstressed fur. For a bit, for a bit. And again, that flat T on bit, because I'm not saying bit, for a bit, for a bit. You can still link them together even if you say for, or a native speaker commonly says for a bit, for a bit. Now, sometimes native speakers will pronounce the T in this case because it's at the end of a sentence. There's a period. So we have to take a pause anyway. For a bit, for a bit.
I'm going out for a bit.
To go out, this means to temporarily leave your current location, most commonly your home. For a bit is a time reference and it means for a small amount of time.
Sorry, guys. I have to go out for a bit.
This is a common way that someone will say they're leaving. I'm going out for a bit. Now, where are they going? Well, remember, it's more of a they're going out temporarily. So perhaps they're going to run errands, go grocery shopping, meet a friend, or go to the movies, any small amount of time. We also commonly use this as a suggestion to say, let's leave the house and do something more interesting. We've been watching Netflix all day. Let's go out. Let's go out for a bit.
Let's go out tonight.
Now let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice these pronunciation changes and practice fast English. So I'll say each sentence again 3 times, and after each sentence, I want you to repeat the sentence out loud. Here we go. It was a cakewalk. It was a cakewalk. It was a cakewalk. It's a Band-Aid fix. It's a Band-Aid fix. It's a Band-Aid fix. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't rest on your laurels. I'm going out for a bit. I'm going out for a bit. I'm going out for a bit. Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. It's not a big deal at all. It's not a big deal at all. It's not a big deal at all. Did you get this one? I said it's not a big deal at all. It's a contraction of it is. Not a, we can combine these together, but notice we have a T between 2 vowels. So a native speaker is going to pronounce that as a soft D and say nada, nada. It's nada, it's nada. Big deal. And then we can do the same with at, with that T, and then all. I can put them together and then I'll pronounce that T as a soft D, and it sounds like at all, at all, at all, at all. It's not a big deal at all. Let's talk about what this means, to be a big deal. This describes something that's important, serious, or significant. We use this in both positive and negative situations. For example, when you do something and the consequences are serious in a bad way. Getting caught plagiarizing is a big deal. You could be expelled. So here the consequences are serious in a negative way. You could be expelled, which means permanently removed from your school.
Is that big of a deal?
Yes, it's a big deal.
But we also use this in a positive way. Getting a promotion is a big deal. You can finally buy a house. So here, the promotion is important and significant for the impact it will have on your life. It's a big deal.
No big deal. It's a huge deal.
Now remember, our example was in the negative. It's not a big deal at all. So we can use this in two ways. First, to say that something isn't serious, significant, or important. For example, missing the party isn't a big deal. Your friend will understand. So the consequence of that action, missing the party, isn't very important or significant or serious.
It's really not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Now we also use this as a reply when someone offers appreciation or their thanks for something we did. Your friend could say, thanks for agreeing to help me move this weekend. I really appreciate it. And you can reply back and say, it's not a big deal at all. I'm happy to help. Now, if you want to sound really American and casual, you can reduce that entire sentence to two words, no biggie, no biggie. So no biggie represents it's not a big deal, no biggie.
Aw, no biggie.
It's really common with native speakers in a casual, informal way. So I could show my appreciation to you and say thank you so much for liking this video and subscribing. Don't forget to do those two things. And then you can reply back and say, no biggie, no biggie. It's not a big deal at all. I'm happy to. So put that in the comments. No biggie, no biggie, no biggie. Put that in the comments. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. So what are you into? So what are you into? So what are you into? I said, so what are you into? What are can combine together, and that are can sound very reduced. What-er. So in what are, what-er. So basically, I'm forming a contraction in spoken English, although this does not exist as a contraction, is what we do in spoken English. So what-er, you can become more of an unstressed ya or ya, almost identical in pronunciation. What-er, ya, into. So you can take into and change it to into. I didn't do that personally, but many native speakers do. So be prepared to hear to as ta. So what are you into? What are you into? This is a casual way to ask someone about their interests or preferences. So definitely add this to your vocabulary. It will help you sound like a Native American speaker.
So what exactly are you into, Jesse?
To reply, you can say I'm, to be into, I am, I'm into, plus a noun. I'm into music, art, yoga, photography, hiking, biking, or whatever other activity that you're into. It's also very common to answer what are you into just with a verb of preference and simply say, I like music, I love yoga, I adore photography, or whatever your interest or preference is.
So, what are you into? What about you, Sleeveless? What are you into?
Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. Can we play it by ear? Can we play it by ear? Can we play it by ear? Did you get this one? I said, can we play it by ear? Can is an auxiliary verb. It's there to ask the question. When it's an auxiliary verb, we pronounce it as kin, unstressed, because the main verb is what you hear, play. Can you play? Can you play? We can combine play and it together. I'll take that Y and I'll use it to connect. Play it, play it, play it. But you say it as one word. Can we play it by ear? Do you know what this means? When you play something by ear, it means that you make decisions as they happen rather than planning in advance. If your friend or spouse asks you, "What should we do this weekend?" and you don't want to make plans, you just want to decide as it's happening. So you wait until dinner to decide what you're going to have for dinner rather than planning it in advance the day before. You can say, "Let's just play it by ear. Let's just play it by ear."
You're right. Let's play it by ear.
Or someone asks, "What are you going to do on vacation?" because they know you have a vacation planned. You can reply back and say, "We have a few tours planned and we'll play the rest by ear." The rest being the rest of your vacation. We'll play the rest by ear. We'll decide what we want to do in the moment based on how we feel, based on where we are, based on the situation, rather than deciding in advance. What about you? When you're planning a vacation, do you prefer to have a full itinerary, which means every day all the activities you're going to do on that day are decided in advance? That's a full itinerary. Or do you prefer to play it by ear? No plans. You're just going to decide what to do based on how you feel. Or perhaps number 3, a little bit of both. So put in the comments your preference 1, 2, or 3. As for me, I would probably choose number 2, just to play it by ear. I like being more spontaneous, but my husband Kevin, he is definitely a full itinerary person, which I learned the first time we planned a vacation together. So now we do number 3, we do a little bit of both, so we both are satisfied. What about you? Share yours in the comments.
I don't know. Play it by ear. Why?
Let's try this one more time. I'll say it 3 times. Turns out I bought a knockoff. Turns out I bought a knockoff. Turns out I bought a knockoff. Did you get this one? Maybe a little more challenging. I said, turns out I bought a knockoff. Turns out, I can combine those together and it sounds like turns out. So I'm using that S to glide to the next word, but I say it as one word, turns out. Turns out I bought a, so bought is pronounced bought, so I can combine those together, boughta, boughta. Just like got a, native speakers commonly say gotta, well you can do the same thing with bought a, boughta, boughta. Knock, the K is silent, and off, because they go together, knock off, it's one word, I'm going to use that knock off, cough. So I'm going to pronounce the final K on knock, and I'm going to pronounce it on off, knock off, knock off. Let's talk about what this means. Turns out, to turn out, this is an extremely common phrasal verb and is used in many expressions in daily speech. So definitely add it to your vocabulary. In this context, turns out is used to say that something is surprising or unexpected. So I did not expect this situation.
Turns out it was spam!
So let's say you were supposed to work late tonight and you knew about this last week. You've planned your entire week to work late today. You've made plans and arrangements, but then your boss says, "Oh, actually, you don't have to work late tonight. We finished the project." So you can say, "Oh, turns out I don't have to work late tonight," because it's unexpected, it's surprising, it's not what you thought. Turns out. Grammatically, there should be a subject here. It turns out I don't have to work late tonight. But this is called a dummy subject in English, where the subject it doesn't actually represent anything, it's just the existence, the situation. Because it's a dummy subject, in spoken English, we often drop it and just say, turns out I don't have to work late tonight. But in written English, A subject is required grammatically. Let's talk about a knockoff. What is this? Because turns out I bought a knockoff. What's a knockoff? A knockoff is a copy or an imitation of something, usually a product or service. Knockoffs are very common with designer brands. So the original is a Louis Vuitton handbag, which has a very distinct look to it. But there are a lot of knockoffs. They're fake. They're fake Louis Vuittons. And from a distance, you probably can't tell at all. But when you examine the quality of the material, it's very obvious. So in this situation, maybe it's my friend bought a Louis Vuitton, but turns out it was a knockoff.
Are these designer or knockoff?
Can't you just buy another knockoff?
That's actually a cubic zirconia knockoff.
Now let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice all of these pronunciation changes that take place in spoken English. I'll say each sentence again 3 times, and after I say the sentence, I want you to repeat the sentence out loud and imitate my pronunciation. Here we go. It's not a big deal at all. It's not a big deal at all. It's not a big deal at all. So what are you into? So what are you into? So what are you into? Can we play it by ear? Can we play it by ear? Can we play it by ear? Turns out I bought a knockoff. Turns out I bought a knockoff. Turns out I bought a knockoff. Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. Our first listening exercise, I'll say it 3 times. Thanks for your help, you rock. Thanks for your help, you rock. Thanks for your help, you rock. Did you get this one? I said, thanks for your help, you rock. Very easy, right? At a natural pace, native speakers, we reduce sound. So for becomes fur. Thanks for. Your becomes your. Thanks for your. Thanks for your help. Your help. Thanks for your help. Now let's review a common mistake that I hear beginner students make and sometimes even advanced students. You can say thank you or thanks. You cannot say thanks you or thank. And notice in our example we have thanks for your help. Thanks for your help. What is your help? This is a noun. So we have thanks for plus noun. You can also use thanks for plus gerund because for is a preposition. So what would thanks for your help be in the gerund form? Do you know? Thanks for helping me. Thanks for your help. Thanks for helping me. And you rock, this is a very natural way to say you're great, you're awesome. I use this in the comment section to reply to your lovely comments all the time. But don't say you are rock. It is not to be rock, it is to rock. You rock, you're awesome, you're really great, you rock. Put that in the comments, you rock. You rock.
Thanks for your help.
Thanks for helping me.
Thanks, Billy. You rock.
You rock.
Thanks, honey.
Let's try this again, a little more difficult. I'll say it 3 times. She's starting to rub off on you. She's starting to rub off on you. She's starting to rub off on you. Did you get this one? I said she's starting to rub off on you. She's is our contraction. She is, she's. She's starting to. So instead of to, you can use an unstressed to. She's starting to rub off. Because rub off is a phrasal verb, they go together. I can take that B sound and connect it to the next word, but I have to combine them together. I have to say them as one word. Rub off, boff, rub off, rub off. I can also take that on and add it together. So I'm saying those 3 words as one. Rub off fawn. So here I'm taking the F from off and I'm adding it to on. Fawn, rub off on, rub off on, rub off on you. What does this mean? To rub off on someone is when someone's behavior or personality affects someone else. Let's take Janice, and let's say Janice loves helping other people. Now let's say Fernando spends a week working with Janice, and now Fernando starts helping other people. You could say Janice rubbed off on Fernando. Here we have it in the past simple, rubbed, rubbed, rubbed off on. Janice rubbed off on Fernando. Now you could also take the specific personality trait or characteristic, in this case Janice's helpfulness, which is a noun. Janice's helpfulness, because the helpfulness belongs to Janice, so it's possessive. Janice's helpfulness rubbed off on Fernando. So that specific character trait of Janice transferred to Fernando because they spent time together.
Marcus is really rubbing off on you.
Finally, I'm rubbing off on you.
My deviousness has finally rubbed off on you.
Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. He rubs me the wrong way. He rubs me the wrong way. He rubs me the wrong way. Did you get this one? I said, he rubs me the wrong way. Notice this expression uses the verb to rub, and our last expression used the verb to rub, but they have completely different meanings. And that's why this is a more advanced listening exercise, because maybe you understood the words, but you don't know what this means. To rub someone the wrong way. This is to annoy someone, but without intending to. Remember Janice from our last example, and she was very helpful, but maybe for some reason she just rubs you the wrong way. She annoys you, but there's nothing that she does to annoy you, just maybe your personalities clash. They don't go together. So if you're planning a social gathering, you might say, is it okay if we don't invite Janice? She rubs me the wrong way. Now, an entire person like poor Janice can rub you the wrong way, but it also could be something specific that someone said or did. And overall, you like Janice, but just that one thing she said or did rubbed you the wrong way. For example, your comment just rubbed me the wrong way. So maybe she said something in a meeting that really annoyed you, but you know she did not intend to annoy you. So here, your comment, this is a noun. Your comment rubbed the past simple of the verb to rub, and notice that soft D, rubbed, rubbed me the wrong way.
Wait, is it me? Like, do I rub you the wrong way?
Not Jay. Guy rubs me the wrong way.
She rubs everyone the wrong way, but Pop.
Our final listening exercise, and the most advanced, I'll say it 3 times. I had a hunch he'd quit. I had a hunch he'd quit. I had a hunch he'd quit. Did you get this one? I said, I had a hunch he'd quit. Notice for pronunciation, I had a. So I combine had a together as one word. I had a hunch he'd quit. Now, did you hear that the he'd quit? Well, that D represents what word? Would. He would quit, he'd quit, he'd quit. Very difficult for students to hear. Native speakers understand it based on context and based on grammatical structure. It would sound awkward without it. So we know it's there even though we can't really hear it either. When you have a hunch is the noun, and then the verb that goes with it is have. So to have a hunch, this is when you think or predict that something is going to happen, but it isn't based on facts, it's based on your intuition, your feeling. So you could say, I have a hunch she'll accept our invitation. Now, if someone replies back and says, why? All you would say is, because I have a hunch. I have a feeling. I have a gut feeling. And notice the grammar here. I have a hunch. This is the present simple. And then she'll accept. She will accept. That's the future simple. I have a hunch. She'll accept our invitation. Because you're making a prediction about the future. But you could use this in the past, like our listening exercise. I had a hunch last week in the past, so that's the past simple. Last week, I had a hunch that he would quit. So would is the past simple of the verb will. I had a hunch that he'd quit. And using that is optional. You don't need it. You could simply say, I had a hunch he'd quit.
I had a hunch.
Just a hunch.
I had a hunch, but I wasn't certain.
Now let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice speaking fast just like a native. I'll say each sentence again 3 times, and this time I want you to repeat each sentence out loud. Here we go. Thanks for your help, you rock. Thanks for your help, you rock. Thanks for your help, you rock. She's starting to rub off on you. She's starting to rub off on you. She's starting to rub off on you. He rubs me the wrong way. He rubs me the wrong way. He rubs me the wrong way. I had a hunch he'd quit. I had a hunch he'd quit. I had a hunch he'd quit. Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. Are you all set? Are you all set? Are you all set? I said, are you all set? Notice that the you becomes more of an unstressed ya or ya. So it's a very subtle difference, ya, ya. Native speakers will use both, are ya, are ya. Are you all set? And notice I don't push out that T, so set, all set. Now what does this mean, to be all set? This simply means to be ready. So you can use this all the time in your daily speech. So I could ask you, are you ready for your presentation tomorrow? And you can reply back with those 2 words, all set, all set. The full form would be, I am all set, and then you can just reduce that to all set, which means I'm ready for my presentation tomorrow. We commonly use this to confirm that someone is ready to leave a house, leave a restaurant, leave any location. Are you ready to go? And you can reply back with those 2 words, all set, which means I'm ready to go. All set?
All set?
All set.
Let's try this again, a little more challenging. I'll say it 3 times. My week's off to a rocky start. My week's off to a rocky start. My week's off to a rocky start. Did you get this one? I said my week's off to a rocky start. Notice that contraction, weeks, that is week is. My week is, my week's off. And instead of saying to a, I can combine those together with a w, to a. So I use that w to glide, to a. My week's off to a rocky start. The reason why this is more difficult is because you may not know the expression. The expression is to be off, to a, and then adjective, start. And in this example, my adjective is rocky. My week's off to a rocky start. Rocky means difficult or uncertain.
He and I got off to a rocky start.
All right, sure. Tonight got off to a weird rocky start.
We often use this adjective rocky to describe relationships. It could be a romantic relationship, a relationship with family or friends, or a relationship with your boss or coworker. Your friend might come to you upset and say, our relationship is a little rocky right now, and she wants your advice. But remember, you can use any adjective with this expression, so hopefully you'll use a positive one. My week's off to an amazing start. And notice, because my adjective starts with a vowel, my article becomes an amazing start.
Off to a great start.
So we're off to a good start.
And you can use this expression as a reply to, how's your week going? So why don't you practice this right now? How's your week going? And I want you to put in the comments, my week's off to a adjective start. And you choose the adjective. Put that in the comments. And hopefully it's a positive adjective. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. What do you have on the go today? What do you have on the go today? What do you have on the go today? Did you get this one? I said, what do you have on the go today? Have you heard that native speakers pronounce what do you as what-ya? What-ya? We combine all those sounds together. What-ya? An alternative is whatcha. Whatcha. And I use both of them equally, so it's important that you know both of them as well. And this question is how a native speaker will commonly ask, what are you doing today? So the expression is have on the go. What do you have on the go today? What are you doing today? Now, instead of have on the go, native speakers will also say, what do you have going on? So on the go is one option. Going on is another option. What do you have going on today?
Hey girl, what do you got going on today?
So to answer, maybe you could say, today I'm studying JForrest English lessons. Is that what you have going on today? Let's try this one more time. I'll say it 3 times. Did you nod off in the presentation too? Did you nod off in the presentation too? Did you nod off in the presentation too? Did you get this one? I said, did you nod off in the presentation too? Native speakers will combine did you and say did you. Did you. So you hear a j sound. Did you. Or we can reduce that to did ya or did ya. So that or So all 3 options are common. Nod off is a phrasal verb, so we'll pronounce it as one word, nod off. So notice I'll take that D sound and I'll connect it on the off, but I have to combine it together. Nod off, nod off, nod off. To nod off, this means that you fall asleep accidentally when you're not supposed to, like during a presentation. So hopefully you're not nodding off during this lesson right now. Or maybe you nodded off on the bus. I nodded off on the bus and missed my stop. Has that ever happened to you? Or maybe you see one of your coworkers nodding off. I think Sarah nodded off. Someone should wake her up before her boss sees her.
Did you just nod off?
I nodded off.
So I nodded off a little.
Nodded off? Ross, you were snoring.
Now let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice your pronunciation. I'm going to say each sentence again, and I want you to repeat the sentence aloud and imitate my pronunciation. Are you all set? Are you all set? Are you all set? My week's off to a rocky start. My week's off to a rocky start. My week's off to a rocky start. What do you have on the go today? What do you have on the go today? What do you have on the go today? Did you nod off in the presentation too? Did you nod off in the presentation too? Did you nod off in the presentation too? Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. Let's get started. I'll say it 3 times. I got a lot on my plate. I got a lot on my plate. I got a lot on my plate. Did you get this one? I said I got a lot on my plate. Now, got native speakers pronounce this as gotta, gotta. I got a lot on my plate. The expression is to have a lot on one's plate. Have you heard this? It's very common. When you have a lot on your plate, it means you're very busy. You have many different tasks to complete. Now notice in my spoken expression, I used got. I got a lot on my plate. I got a lot on my plate. Because native speakers commonly replace have with got in spoken English in a casual, informal way. But in written English or more formal professional English, it's best to use have. So let's see some examples. I could say, give the project to Isabel. Amar already has a lot on his plate. Now, of course, our verb is have, so you need to conjugate it with the subject and time reference. In this case, Amar, third person singular. Amar has in the present simple. And notice, Amar has a lot on his plate because the expression requires a possessive, his plate. We also use this expression to talk about a time we were busy in the past. So you have to conjugate that verb. We had a lot on our plate because the subject is we. So now I need our plate. And then you can use a past simple time reference. Last week with the conference.
I got a lot on my plate right now.
I just got a lot on my plate.
Hey, I got a lot on my plate.
Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. I'm thinking of taking up sewing. I'm thinking of taking up sewing. I'm thinking of taking up sewing. How'd you do? I said I'm thinking of taking up sewing. Take up is our phrasal verb. And notice I pronounced it as one, taking up. Taking up, because the preposition belongs to the verb. Native speakers may drop that taking, that G sound, and it sounds more like taken, taken. But then you have to connect the preposition, taken up, taken up. I'm thinking of taking up sewing. You may hear that. And did you get sewing? Because of course the pronunciation is the same as sew. There's no sewing though, adding an ing. So sewing is the activity, but the pronunciation is the same as the word sew. Let's talk about this phrasal verb. When you take up an activity or a hobby, it simply means start. And this is one of the reasons that students, you don't understand native speakers because our vocabularies are filled with phrasal verbs, idioms, and expressions like this one. So remember our last expression, I have a lot on my plate. Let's combine these together. I'd love to take up sewing, but I already have so much on my plate at work. Of course, take is a verb, so you need to conjugate it. I could say Max took up guitar last year and he's already amazing. What about you? Are you thinking of taking up? Notice you need that gerund, thinking of taking up. Are you thinking of taking up a new activity or hobby? Share that in the comments below.
We'll take up yoga or jogging or, we'll be organized.
Taking up dressmaking?
Yeah, I am.
Well, Mrs. B and I did take up synchronized swimming.
Let's try a more advanced test. I'll say it 3 times. Have you nailed down the dates yet? Have you nailed down the dates yet? Have you nailed down the dates yet? I said, have you nailed down the dates yet? And the reason why this is more advanced is because I'm using an expression you may not be familiar with. For pronunciation, I said have you, but a lot of native speakers reduce you to just a ya, have ya, have ya nailed. So you might hear that. Now nailed, notice in the past simple that ed is a very soft D, nailed, nailed. But we have nailed down. So because I have a D sound on down and these two go together, I'll pronounce it as one and you'll only hear one D sound. Nailed down, nailed down. So it's pronounced exactly the same as nail down, but if you say it together, that D is used for both. Same with dates yet. Notice how that blends into the y for yet, dates yet. And it sounds like one word, dates yet, dates yet. The phrasal verb here is to nail something down. And that's when you firmly establish or confirm something. So just think of it as 100% confirmed. I could say I'm not signing the contract until we nail down the terms. Once the terms are nailed down, they're 100% confirmed. So you can think of them as official. So then I'm comfortable signing the contract. In a more everyday context, you might say, let's nail down our vacation plans by the end of the week. And once your plans are nailed down, they're 100% confirmed, so you can get excited about your vacation. Now notice my question, have you nailed down the dates yet? What verb tense is that? It's the present perfect. And I'm using the present perfect because this is an unfinished timeline. If the person says no, it's still possible for them to nail down the dates, to confirm the dates, because it's unfinished. To reply, you can say no, not yet, because we use yet with the present perfect. No, I haven't nailed down the dates yet. Or you could say, yes, I nailed down the dates, past simple, to show a completed past action. Or you could say, yes, I have nailed down the dates. This is the present perfect. It's a completed past action with a result in the present.
Once we nail down our mission.
I'm just nailing down the specifics.
I'll nail it down this week.
Let's do one more, even more advanced. I'll say it 3 times. You can't dodge his calls forever. You can't dodge his calls forever. You can't dodge his calls forever. Did you get this one? I said you can't dodge his calls forever. Now notice can't. In spoken English, I'm not going to pronounce that hard can't with the T. You can't dodge. Notice here, the D is silent, the middle D, dodge, dodge. Dodge his calls forever. Now, what does dodge mean? To dodge. This is when you purposely avoid or ignore. So he's calling, but I'm not answering. I'm purposely ignoring it. I'm dodging his call. So to you, I might say you can't dodge speaking in public forever. You can't purposely avoid it or ignore the activity. At some point, you just have to do it. Now notice I use dodge speaking because you can dodge something, his call, or you can dodge doing something. So the verb in ing, dodge speaking. We sometimes use this in a more positive way. I might say, great job dodging that question. So maybe you were asked an inappropriate question in an interview or a meeting, but then you strategically avoided answering that question. So I might say, great job dodging that question.
She's dodging calls.
Sure, why have you been dodging my calls?
She's dodging my phone calls.
Now let's do an imitation exercise. I'm going to say each sentence again 3 times, but I'm going to leave enough time for you to repeat the sentence out loud and imitate my pronunciation. Let's do that now. I got a lot on my plate. I got a lot on my plate. I got a lot on my plate. I'm thinking of taking up sewing. I'm thinking of taking up sewing. I'm thinking of taking up sewing. Have you nailed down the dates yet? Have you nailed down the dates yet? Have you nailed down the dates yet? You can't dodge his calls forever. You can't dodge his calls forever. You can't dodge his calls forever. Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. Looks like we're back to square one. Looks like we're back to square one. Looks like we're back to square one. I said, looks like we're back to square one. Did you get that one? Let's talk about the pronunciation changes. Notice the contraction were. This is we are as a contraction were. Now notice how unstressed my pronunciation is. It sounds like were, not we're, were. This is how native speakers say it at a natural pace. We're back, we're back, we're back. We're back to, this sounds like t in real English, t. We're back to square one. We're back to square one. Now what does this mean, to be back to square one? Well, square one on a board game is the beginning of a board game. So when you're back to square one, it means you're back to the beginning. And you're back to the beginning, the start, because you tried something and it didn't work. So you had a failed attempt and you have to try again. Looks like we're back to square one. It looks like we have to start again from the beginning because our first attempt failed. Our next listening exercise, I'll say it 3 times. I don't know if we can trust her. She's pretty wishy-washy. I don't know if we can trust her. She's pretty wishy-washy. I don't know if we can trust her. She's pretty wishy-washy. I said, I don't know if we can trust her. She's pretty wishy-washy. First, let's talk about don't know. At a natural pace, this sounds like don't know, I don't know, I don't know, don't know, I don't know. I don't know if we can, notice here, we can trust. When can is the auxiliary verb, so it's not the main verb, we reduce this to kin, and it's very unstressed sound. I don't know if we can trust, if we can trust. And notice you hear trust more because it's the main verb, and can, which sounds like kin, is very short, can trust, can trust. I don't know if we can trust her. Now, here we can get rid of that H sound and it just sounds like trust her. But then you combine it to the word before, trust her, trust her, trust her. I don't know if we can trust her. This is a contraction for she is. She's pretty wishy-washy. What does wishy-washy mean? To be wishy-washy, this is when you have no clear or consistent ideas or decisions. We generally use this as an adjective to describe someone who changes their mind, changes the decision that they make frequently. So that's why you don't know if you can trust her, because she says she's going to come to your party or help you move, but because she's wishy-washy, tomorrow she might change her mind and say, oh, actually, I'm not coming to the party, or I'm not going to help you move. But then maybe the next day she changes her mind again and she does come to your party. She's wishy-washy. I don't know if I can trust her. She's pretty wishy-washy. Our next listening exercise, I'll say it 3 times. You gotta give him props. He's a real trooper. You gotta give him props. He's a real trooper. You gotta give him props. He's a real trooper. I said, you got to give him props. He's a real trooper. You got to sounds like gotta. You gotta give him. Same thing we saw with her. Get rid of the H and it will sound like im. But you can combine it to the word before. Give him, give him, give him. You gotta give him props. This is a contraction. He's a real trooper. Now, what does this mean? To give someone props, this is when you give someone respect, credit, or recognition. So let's say a coworker of yours gets a really big client. Well, if you want to give your coworker credit or recognition, you could say, oh, we got to give him props. And then you can celebrate his big achievement. Let's talk about he's a real trooper. When you describe someone as a trooper to be a trooper, this is someone who perseveres through hardship or difficulty. So they persevere, they keep going, they don't give up, they don't quit, they persevere. And this is why you gotta give him props, because he didn't quit, even though it was difficult, because he's a real trooper. Our next listening exercise, I'll say it 3 times. Our successes and failures were writ large. Our successes and failures were writ large. Our successes and failures were writ large. I said our successes and failures were writ large. Notice our. I did not pronounce this as our. I said R. A very reduced sound, R. Our successes, our successes. Our successes and failures. Here, and, when and comes between 2 nouns or even 2 verbs, we reduce it to n. Our successes and failures. Coffee and tea, successes and failures. Our successes and failures were writ. Did you spell this starting with a R or with a W? The W is silent, just like in the word write. The W is silent. But in spelling, it's there. In pronunciation, it isn't. Writ large. What does writ large mean? This is an adjective that simply means to be very obvious. So our successes and failures were very obvious. Why is that? Perhaps we work for a public company, and when we fail, the general public knows we failed. But also when we succeed, the general public knows we succeeded, because our successes and failures are writ large. They're very obvious. Are you ready for your last listening exercise? I'll say it 3 times. With a few tweaks, it'll be good to go. With a few tweaks, it'll be good to go. With a few tweaks, it'll be good to go. I said, with a few tweaks, it'll be good to go. Did you hear that contraction? It'll. It will sounds like it'll. It's a very soft sound. It's easy to miss that will. It'll be. But without it, the sentence wouldn't be grammatically correct. If I said it be, that isn't correct. It will be. It'll be. It'll be good to go. Just like we saw before, to is a reduced sound, an unstressed sound, to. Good to go, to go, good to go, good to go. What does this mean? With a few tweaks, tweaks are changes, small changes. So let's say you're writing a report and your boss or coworker wants you to remove this section and add this information. That would be a tweak, a tweak. You need to make a small change, a tweak. With a few tweaks, with a few changes, it'll be good to go. When something is good to go, it means it's ready. And we use this in two contexts, ready to leave or ready to start doing something. So let's say you and your friend are going to the movies. Your friend could text you and say, good to go? Are you ready to leave? And in this case, it could be, are you ready to leave your house to meet me at the movies? Good to go? Good to go? We use this a lot as native speakers. In this context, it'll be good to go. Something can also be good to go in the context of it's ready to start doing something. For example, the new website will be good to go on Monday, which means the new website will be ready to start doing something, ready to start receiving visitors, ready to be available to the public. The new website will be good to go on Monday. Now, the new website as a subject is it. So if you already know you're talking about the website, you can say it'll be good to go. Now let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice these natural pronunciation changes and practice these new expressions. I'll say each sentence again 3 times in a row, and I want you to imitate my pronunciation. Try to say it just like me, get all those pronunciation changes, and I want you to say this out loud. So you can do this as many times as you like to practice. Looks like we're back to square one. Looks like we're back to square one. Looks like we're back to square one. I don't know if we can trust her. She's pretty wishy-washy. I don't know if we can trust her. She's pretty wishy-washy. I don't know if we can trust her. She's pretty wishy-washy. You gotta give him props. He's a real trooper. You gotta give him props. He's a real trooper. You gotta give him props. He's a real trooper. Our successes and failures were writ large. Our successes and failures were writ large. Our successes and failures were writ large. With a few tweaks, it'll be good to go. With a few tweaks, it'll be good to go. With a few tweaks, it'll be good to go. Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. We need to nip this in the bud. We need to nip this in the bud. We need to nip this in the bud. Did you get this one? I said we need to nip this in the bud. Now let's talk about need. Notice that I didn't pronounce the D, need. Because if I do that, it forces me to take a pause, which slows me down. So if you don't pronounce that D at the end, you'll be able to speak faster. We need to. Notice how to becomes more of an unstressed to. We need to nip this in. So notice here, we have this in, and again, I can connect those together, and I can take that S sound and I can add it to the beginning of in because it begins in a vowel. This sin. And it sounds like one word, this sin the bud.
You need to nip this in the bud.
Now, what does this mean? When you nip something in the bud, it means you stop something before it becomes serious or permanent. And that something that you want to stop is a negative behavior or a problem or some sort of issue. I use this expression with my little kitty, Sasha. When she was just a kitten, she used to scratch at the furniture. Now, obviously, this is a negative behavior that I want to stop. And if I let her keep scratching, then it will become a permanent habit, a permanent behavior. So I needed to nip her scratching in the bud. I needed to nip it in the bud. So maybe there's an issue or a problem that you want to nip in the bud. For my students, I would say you need to nip your fear of public speaking in the bud, which means you need to stop it when it's just a small fear. Because if you let it grow and grow and grow and grow, it's going to be a lot more difficult to overcome. So you need to nip your fear of public speaking in the bud. So if you're with me, put that in the comments. Nip fear in the bud. Nip fear in the bud, put that in the comments. And I certainly hope that my channel and these lessons help you do that.
I just want to nip any problems in the bud.
Gotta nip this thing in the bud.
Going to nip this thing in the bud.
You need to nip this in the bud.
Let's try this again with another listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. Don't blow his comment out of proportion. Don't blow his comment out of proportion. Don't blow his comment out of proportion. Did you hear what I said? I said, don't blow his comment out of proportion. Don't is a contraction of do not. Don't. It'll help you speak faster. And again, drop that T so you don't take a pause. Don't blow. Blow is. So notice on his, I drop that H and I combine those two together. Don't blow is comment. Out of, you can reduce those into one sound, outa. Don't blow is comment, outa proportion.
You're blowing this way out of proportion.
Now let's talk about the meaning here. When you blow something out of proportion, you make an event or a problem seem more serious than it is in reality. So let's say you have a job interview and it's going to be in English, but remember, you nipped fear in the bud, so you're not afraid to speak in public, right? But imagine that you didn't nip fear in the bud and you're stressing and you're anxious and you're nervous, but the event is going to a job interview in English and you make it seem like this big, terrible, scary event. So you could say, don't blow it out of proportion. Or if you're telling a friend how nervous you are about this job interview, your friend could say to you, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Now notice here I added way out of proportion. It's very common to add way to make it sound stronger, so to emphasize it.
You're blowing this way out of proportion.
Blow it way out of proportion.
You're blowing this way out of proportion.
Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. My client really chewed me out. My client really chewed me out. My client really chewed me out. How'd you do with this one? I said, my client really chewed me out. Now let's talk about chewed. Notice this is an ED verb, a past simple verb, but the pronunciation is a soft D, chewed. Now again, we can drop that sound when we're connecting it to other words so you don't really hear it. My client really chewed me out. And notice how I take me out and I combine them together. Now I use a soft y sound to combine 2 vowels, me out, yout. So I add a y in front of out, yout. But I combine it with me, so it sounds like one word, me out, me out. So you don't hear it when you're speaking at a fast pace, but if you slowed it down, you would hear the very slight y in front of out. My client really chewed me out.
Your boss just chewed me out.
The expression is to chew someone out, and this is when you tell someone angrily that they've done something wrong. So this is not a positive thing. Now notice the difference between these sentences. I chewed my assistant out. The client chewed me out. So notice the difference. In the first one, I chewed my assistant out. I'm giving the angry comments. The second one, my client chewed me out. I'm receiving the angry comments. Now sometimes my students, maybe even you, sometimes my students chew me out in the comments section. They tell me angrily that I've done something wrong in the video. So please don't chew me out. Put that in the comments. I won't chew you out. I won't chew you out. Please don't chew me out. It's not very pleasant to read negative comments, so don't do it.
Chew me out about something.
More like chewed out. I've been chewed out before.
Wanted me to chew you out.
Let's try this one more time. I'll say it 3 times. We're not laying anyone off. We're not laying anyone off. We're not laying anyone off. Did you get this one? I said we're not laying anyone off. Now notice where this is a contraction, we are, and notice how unstressed it is. We're not. Now, as a contraction, you could also say we aren't. So both of those contractions are common. I just chose to use where. We're not. We're not laying anyone off. Now notice how I can combine anyone off. Off starts with a vowel, and anyone, it ends on an N sound. So I can take that N and just add it in front of the vowel. Anyone off, anyone off. And it sounds more like one sound. To lay someone off, this is when a company stops employing someone because the company doesn't have the money or the work to employ that person anymore. So your manager or your boss could say to you, sorry, our sales are down, so we have to lay you off. Which means that they don't have the money to keep paying you, so they can't employ you anymore.
Talking about laying people off.
I had to lay them off.
I had to lay off 27 robots.
To lay someone off is the active form. It's the subject doing the action, but it's also very common to use the sentence structure to get laid off or to be laid off. And this is when you are receiving the action. So this is when you lose your job because your company doesn't have the money or the work. And remember, we use get for the transition from not laid off, so employed, to laid off, so the transition from employed to unemployed. That's to get laid off. Now, to be laid off, that's simply talking about your current state. So now you are unemployed.
I wasn't fired from my job. I was laid off.
I got laid off.
Wait, we're gonna get laid off?
Now let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice these pronunciation changes and you can practice speaking fast just like a native speaker. So I'll say each sentence again 3 times, and I want you to repeat the sentence out loud and imitate my pronunciation. Here we go. We need to nip this in the bud. We need to nip this in the bud. We need to nip this in the bud. Don't blow his comment out of proportion. Don't blow his comment out of proportion. Don't blow his comment out of proportion. My client really chewed me out. My client really chewed me out. My client really chewed me out. We're not laying anyone off. We're not laying anyone off. We're not laying anyone off. Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. They've been bickering all day. They've been bickering all day. They've been bickering all day. Did you get this one? I said they've been bickering all day. Let's talk about the pronunciation changes. Notice I have they've. This is a contraction. They have, they've. Native speakers use contractions in spoken English almost 100% of the time, so you need to be very comfortable hearing the contraction because it affects the grammar of the sentence. You need to have they have been bickering because that shows the grammar, and the grammar is the present perfect continuous. So if you didn't have that, it would be grammatically incorrect. They've been bickering all day. Now notice I said been, a very unstressed been. This is how we pronounce the past participle of the verb be, been, in American English. I don't speak British English, but I believe in British English they pronounce it more stressed, been, but in American English we don't do that. We just say been. They've been bickering all day. Now, to understand fast English outside of the classroom, you need to hear the individual words, but you also have to understand the meaning of the words. So let's talk about the verb to bicker. This is when you argue about things that are not important. The concept of bickering is extremely common and everyone does it, and we usually do it with people we spend the most time with. Our family, our spouses, husbands and wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, our close friends, our coworkers that we spend a lot of time with. Anytime you spend a lot of time with someone, it's common that you'll bicker. But it's different from fighting, because when you're fighting with someone, usually there's a strong emotion involved, but when you bicker, you don't really have that emotion. It's less serious because the things you're arguing about, fighting about, are not actually important. Like I said, this can be very common in the workplace when you spend a lot of time with your coworkers. So maybe you're in a meeting and you've been discussing an issue for hours with your coworkers, but people start bickering. They start arguing about things that aren't important. You could say, "We didn't get anything done today because we bickered all meeting."
We argue? We bicker. Yeah, we bicker.
Either. Yeah, well, we were bickering because they were bickering.
Mark, your kids are bickering.
Let's try this again with another listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. That street's pretty sketchy. That street's pretty sketchy. That street's pretty sketchy. How'd you do with this one? I said, that street's pretty sketchy. Did you hear that streets, the S? Well, that is the verb to be in a contraction form. The street is the streets. The street's pretty sketchy. Again, it's extremely important that you hear these contractions for grammar, because we need the verb to be grammatically. The sentence would sound very awkward if you didn't have it, because it would be grammatically incorrect. That street's pretty sketchy. Sketchy, 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 sketchy. Let's talk about to be sketchy. That street is our verb to be sketchy. This is used to say that something is not completely safe. So by saying that street's pretty sketchy, I am saying that street doesn't look completely safe. I don't think that street is safe. So I'm saying we shouldn't go down that street. We should avoid that street. Now, why would I say this street is sketchy? This is an adjective that native speakers use a lot. If I say a street's sketchy, it's most likely because it's dark or lacks lighting. There aren't a lot of people around. There's broken glass or broken windows. or there are a lot of abandoned buildings on that street. It could be all of those reasons, or it could be just one of those reasons for me to say that street doesn't look safe, that street's pretty sketchy. I could say, let's take another street. This one looks sketchy. So I can also use the verb look sketchy, but I have to conjugate it. This street looks sketchy. Or let's say your friend or your husband or your wife came to you and said, hey, I heard this amazing business proposal today. All we need to do is invest $1,000 and we're guaranteed $100,000. And you could say, that sounds sketchy. So notice here the verb is to sound sketchy. And you're saying the idea, the plan, the business proposal doesn't sound completely safe. We also use this to describe people. He's a sketchy guy, or he's sketchy, she's sketchy. In this case, you're saying the person isn't safe, which means you can't trust the person. So with people, it's a way of saying, I don't think I can trust him. She's sketchy, he's sketchy.
Seems a little sketchy.
You're kind of sketchy.
Laundry to some sketchy laundromat?
Let's try another listening exercise. I'll say it 3 times. You must have seen it. You must have seen it. You must have seen it. Did you get this one? You must have seen it. But notice, I didn't actually say have. I reduced that entirely to just You musta. You musta. I could also reduce it to more of an of sound, which is very commonly done by native speakers. You must have. You must have. You must have seen it. Notice for seen it, I use that that N sound to connect the 2 words together. Seen it. Seen it. Seen it. So you hear a N in front of it. It sounds like knit. But if you say those 2 words together, it blends together. Seen it. Seen it. You must have seen it. Now let's talk about the grammar of this. Must is a modal verb, and grammatically you need must plus base verb, which is the verb without to. So grammatically you need must have. In written English, you must use must have seen it, because that's grammatically correct. But in spoken English, it will sound like must-a or must-of. But in written English, if you wrote you must-a or of, it would be incorrect grammatically. So just remember what I'm explaining is for spoken English.
You must have seen it 200 times.
You must have seen it too, Clark.
You must have seen them here.
Let's try this one more time. I'll say it 3 times. What's the ETA? What's the ETA? What's the ETA? I said, what's the ETA? Of course, we have what's. That's a contraction of what is. What's the. Now, because ETA, it begins with a vowel sound, E, I could say either the or the, because we do a more stressed the when the next word starts in a vowel, but this isn't a rule that native speakers follow all the time. But if I did a more stressed E in the, it would really blend together with ETA, the TA, and it would almost sound like it's just one word, the TA, because I wouldn't really repeat the E on ETA, the TA. I believe in my example when I did the listening test, I think the first time I did it more of the ETA, and the second time I did it more of the ETA, and the sounds blended together. Let's listen to that again and see what I did. What's the ETA? What's the ETA? What's the ETA? Now, ultimately, either way that you pronounce it, the ETA or the ETA, is fine. Now, you're probably wondering, well, what's ETA? This stands for Estimated Time of Arrival. So your ETA, the ETA, or something's ETA is the estimated time of arrival for that someone or something, when it's expected to arrive. So let's say we're talking about a project and your boss wants to know when this project will arrive in his inbox or on his desk. He could say, what's the ETA? And he could just say the if it's obvious you're talking about the project. He could say, what's your ETA? Because you're the one submitting the project. Or he could say, what's the project's ETA? So the ETA belongs to the project, so you need that possessive. What's the project's ETA? And they all have the same meaning. We commonly use this with friends or coworkers, family members, to let them know when we're going to arrive. So let's say you were supposed to be at your family's house at 7 o'clock for dinner, but you're running late. You could send them a text message and say, running late. Google says my ETA is 6:42 or 15 minutes. Now Google says, because when you put something in a GPS, Google will tell you, or whatever you use, Google will tell you when you're expected to arrive. That's your ETA.
What's their ETA?
Okay, ETA?
ETA, 11 minutes.
Now let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice your pronunciation as well. So I'm going to say each sentence again, and then I want you to repeat the sentence out loud and try to imitate my pronunciation as closely as possible. And I'll say each sentence 3 times. Let's do that right now. They've been bickering all day. They've been bickering all day. They've been bickering all day. That street's pretty sketchy. That street's pretty sketchy. That street's pretty sketchy. You must have seen it. You must have seen it. You must have seen it. What's the ETA? What's the ETA? What's the ETA? Amazing job. Now let's complete another listening exercise. Maybe I'm just in a rut. Maybe I'm just in a rut. Maybe I'm just in a rut. Did you get this one? I said, maybe I'm just in a rut. Of course, I'm is a contraction. I am, I'm. And notice how in-a sounds like one word. In-a. I'm in a rut. In a rut. The expression here is to be in a rut. Now you can also say to be stuck in a rut. Stuck is optional. When you're in a rut, it means you've been doing an activity like your job or a hobby or a task. You've been doing it too long and you feel like you need to change.
Why are you in a rut?
Same thing every day, knowing exactly what to expect. That's a rut.
So let's say every day you work all day, you eat dinner, but then at night, every night you watch Netflix. That could be your rut. We watch Netflix every night. We're stuck in a rut. We're in a rut.
Are we in a rut?
So to help you get out of that rut, you just need to do something different. So you might say, let's go to the park tonight. So instead of watching Netflix, you go to the park, you enjoy the beautiful day to help you get out of your rut.
You're a writer. Ruts are normal.
Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. My boss is stuck in his ways. My boss is stuck in his ways. My boss is stuck in his ways. How'd you do with this one? I said, my boss is stuck in his ways. Notice how boss is, we say it as one word, bosses. Bosses. It's the exact same pronunciation as the plural form of the noun bosses. I have 2 bosses. But here with the verb to be, my boss is stuck in his ways, it's the exact same pronunciation. The expression to be stuck in one's ways. Notice ways is plural and it's one, possessive. My boss is stuck in his ways. This is when someone is unwilling to change how they do things or how they think about things.
Kind of stuck in his ways.
For example, my boss won't let me work remotely. He's stuck in his ways.
Because he's too stuck in his ways, Gloria. This is good for him.
So he has a specific way of thinking about how work should be done, and he's unwilling to change his thinking. Now, the same expression can also use the verb set, to be stuck or to be set in one's ways, and it has the exact same meaning.
Oh, you're young. Me, I'm set in my ways.
Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. Need a hand? Need a hand? Need a hand? This one was easy, right? I said need a hand, and notice need a sounded like one word, need a. Need a hand?
Need a hand?
Grammatically, this is missing the auxiliary verb and the subject. Do you need a hand? But native speakers commonly drop that and just say, need a hand? And this is the same as saying, need any help? Do you need any help? Exactly the same meaning. Now, to answer and to accept that help, you could say, sure, I could use a hand. And this is the same as, sure, I could use some help.
Hey, tomorrow I could really use a hand in here.
And if you want to request the assistance using this expression, you can say, can you give me a hand? Can you give me a hand? And this is the same as, can you help me? Can you help me?
Hey, Rach, can you give me a hand with this box?
And you can give me a hand right now by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and sharing this video with your friends. That would really give me a hand. Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. How can I get my foot in the door? How can I get my foot in the door? How can I get my foot in the door? Did you get this one? I said, how can I get my foot in the door? Do you know this expression? To get one's or a foot in the door. This is used when you join an organization, a company, you take a specific job that's at a low level, but you're doing that because you hope that low level will turn into a higher position. That's getting your foot in the door.
You've already got a foot in the door.
For example, I'm a journalist, but I took a job as a receptionist to get my foot in the door.
I was just trying to get one foot in the door.
But you have to be careful with this strategy because you don't want to say, I took this job 5 years ago to get my foot in the door, but now I'm stuck in a rut. That would mean that you're still a receptionist 5 years later, so you haven't moved up. So your strategy of taking a lower position to get your foot in the door hasn't been very successful. Now let's do an imitation exercise so you can practice your pronunciation. I'll say each sentence again, and I want you to repeat the sentence out loud. Let's do that now. Maybe I'm just in a rut. Maybe I'm just in a rut. Maybe I'm just in a rut. My boss is stuck in his ways. My boss is stuck in his ways. My boss is stuck in his ways. Need a hand? Need a hand? Need a hand? How can I get my foot in the door? How can I get my foot in the door? How can I get my foot in the door? To understand fast English, you need to practice listening to fast English. So that's what we'll do right now. You're going to listen to a sentence I say 3 times, and you need to write down exactly what you hear in the comments. Don't worry, after I'll explain everything you need to know. Here's our first sentence. I'll say it 3 times. Keep your eyes peeled for the street. Keep your eyes peeled for the street. Keep your eyes peeled for the street. So how'd you do? I said, keep your eyes peeled for the street. Now let's talk about those pronunciation changes. Keep your eyes peeled. Your can sound very unstressed. Your. Keep your eyes. Keep your eyes. And notice how your and eyes link together. You're going to hear that R sound on both sides of the word if we link them. Your eyes, your eyes. So the second word, instead of eyes, really sounds like rise because it has that R. But you have to say it together. Your eyes. Your eyes. And of course, peeled, that ED is a soft D. Keep your eyes peeled, peeled. And for also becomes very unstressed, fur. Keep your eyes peeled for the street. Now notice you hear that R the most in the word street. Make sure you get that R sound, street. Now, do you understand what this means? To keep one's eyes peeled is an idiom. It means to stay alert and watch carefully. So carefully watch for the street so we don't miss it. Now you could say keep your eyes peeled for the client. Notice you use that preposition for and then something or someone. You can keep your eyes peeled, watch carefully for someone, the client. Now in this example, it's the imperative, which is used for an instruction or a direction. I could also say to you, keep your eyes peeled for any opportunities to practice your English. So remember, for and something, and in this case, the something is any opportunities to practice English. Watch carefully. So are you going to keep your eyes peeled for that? If you are, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. Now let's look at this sentence. She kept her eyes peeled for the trail markers during the hike. So remember, you need to conjugate your verb keep. In this case, it's the past simple, kept. She kept. And you have to make sure the possessive matches the subject. The subject is she, so it's her eyes peeled.
If you're ever in the neighborhood, keep your eyes peeled.
So keep your eyes peeled for the headlines that will bring it.
So while I don't have answers for you here, keep your eyes peeled.
Let's do this exercise again. I'll say it 3 times. Are we still on for tonight? Are we still on for tonight? Are we still on for tonight? Did you hear what I said? I said, are we still on for tonight? Notice how still and on link together, and you'll hear that L sound on. So it will sound like still on, still on, still on. Again, for can become fur, still on fur tonight. Da-da. So notice that syllable stress, the first syllable is unstressed, so to becomes that unstressed ta. And then night is your stressed syllable, tonight. Da-da, tonight. Now, what does this mean? Well, this means that we made plans, and I'm confirming that our plans are still happening. So this expression is used socially shortly before plans, maybe the day before or the night before, to confirm the person isn't going to cancel that plan. They're still going to go, to show up. So you could say, are we still on for lunch? Now notice for something. In this case, lunch is the plan we have. Now you can use any time reference. You can say for lunch today, this afternoon, or tomorrow. And this is an alternative to simply asking, are we still having lunch today? So that's the activity. And then I can say, are we still on for lunch? Now, if the activity is known, I can simply say, are we still on for tomorrow if it's known that we're having lunch? So you can just use the time reference. You could also say, are we still on for studying English tomorrow? So the activity is studying English. Now, if I send you a text message and say, are we still on for tonight? You could reply back and say, yup, which is a casual way of saying yes, yup, can't wait. So show some enthusiasm. Or you can say, absolutely, see you at 7 p.m.
You're questioning, are we still on? The confident woman assumes that you're still on.
I'm great, thanks. Are we still on for the kayak trip?
Oh, you bet. I have the kayaks and the equipment.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Let's try this exercise again. I'll say the sentence 3 times. Is the museum walkable? Is the museum walkable? Is the museum walkable? Ooh, did you get this one? Is the museum walkable? So let's talk about the pronunciation for museum. Z. So notice you have that voiced Z sound, museum. And there are 3 sounds, museum, museum, museum. And then the word that maybe you're not familiar with, walkable, walkable. So here there are 3 sounds, walkable. So notice that and then bull. It's not able, it's walkable, walkable. Now let's talk about a very useful word for you to know, to be walkable. So this means that something is close enough to be able to comfortably walk to the location. So is the museum close enough that we can walk there and not be exhausted or sweaty or feel really bad after we get there? Is the museum walkable? So if I send you a message and say, are we still on for lunch today? You could reply back and say, absolutely, but I only have 30 minutes. What's walkable? What's walkable? So what can we walk to quickly because we're short on time? Or I could say a new Thai restaurant opened last week, but I don't think it's walkable. So you can use I don't think, but to make walkable negative, remember it's the verb to be. So you would say, but it's not walkable, or it isn't walkable. There are 2 ways to form that contraction in the present simple. Walkable can be used in a different way, so listen to this sentence. One thing that makes New York City unique is how walkable it is. Most residents don't even own cars. So in this case, walkable is used to describe a geographical area. It can be a small area such as a neighborhood or a large area such as a city, and it means that it's easy to walk in that area.
It's walkable on top of our residential and commercial uses.
These are very different. These are in downtowns, walkable space, no drive-throughs.
They're banal, they're not sustainable, they're not walkable, they're certainly not beautiful.
Let's try this again. I'll say it 3 times. Let's head out early to beat the traffic. Let's head out early to beat the traffic. Let's head out early to beat the traffic. Did you get this one? I said, let's head out early to beat the traffic. Notice how head out combine together to sound like head out, doubt. So you hear that D sound on out, head out, head out. In the word early, you want that long R as well, early. You want to make sure you hear that R, early. early. Now, to beat, because to is a preposition, it becomes unstressed, to beat, to beat. And then traffic, you don't want to hear the R, you want to hear the vowel, traffic, traffic. And then beet is the same pronunciation as the vegetable beet. Now, do you know what the phrasal verb to head out means? Native speakers love using this phrasal verb. It means to leave a place or start a journey. So someone could ask you, what time are you heading out? What time are you leaving? But it's whatever place you're at. If you're at your home, it means your home. If you're at work or a restaurant, it means those locations. And then you can reply back and say, I'm heading out in the present continuous. I'm heading out around 6:30 a.m. so I can beat the traffic. Now notice here I said so I can beat, but in my example sentence originally I said to beat the traffic. This is the short form of the purpose clause, in order to beat the traffic, but native speakers generally drop in order and just say to beat the traffic. Now, native speakers also commonly start sentences with a purpose clause. To beat the traffic, let's head out at 6:30 a.m. Remember, this means in order to beat. This is a purpose clause, it's not the infinitive, because in English grammar, we don't start sentences with the infinitive. To make a general statement, you would use the gerund verb. For example, beating the traffic in New York City is always a challenge. Of course, to beat the traffic, this means to avoid the traffic. And if you beat it, it means you get ahead of it. So you leave earlier or later to avoid it. You could also just take specific streets to beat the traffic, to avoid the traffic.
Everybody, let's head out to our areas.
Let's head out into the rainforest and see how she's doing.
Let's head out to the lake. I'll show you around.
Let's do this exercise again. I'll say it 3 times. I tried to get a little shut-eye on the break. I tried to get a little shut-eye on the break. I tried to get a little shut-eye on the break. Did you get this one? I said I tried to get a little shut-eye on the break. Let's talk about to get a little, because those sounds really blended together. To get a little, to get a, to get a. So to becomes that unstressed ta, get a combines together, get a, to get a, to get a. Now little, native speakers, including me, generally pronounce the T's as soft D's. Little, little. Some native speakers really reduce this word and it just sounds like lil, lil, get a lil, get a lil. But you can pronounce those as soft D's. Get a little, little, get a little, to get a little. And then shut eye, we turn that T into a soft D because it's between vowels, and you'll hear it on both words. Shut eye, die, die, shut eye, shut eye. Now what is shut eye? It's a noun and it means sleep. So you can say I tried to get some shut-eye, a little shut-eye, a few minutes of shut-eye. You could replace shut-eye with sleep in all those examples on the break. Now, shut-eye is commonly used for a short period of sleep, such as a nap. For example, he managed to get some shut-eye on the plane. Now notice the verb is get, so you could say he got in the past simple. He got some shut-eye on the plane. And notice that preposition I used with break, on a break. You could also say during a break. Native speakers commonly use on. And of course, a break in the context of work is a short period of time when you're not working. You can say, I called my friend on my break to see, in order to see, so the purpose clause, to see if we're still on for coffee after work. Now, you could also say, hopefully I can get a few minutes of shut-eye before we meet. I'm exhausted.
Let's get some shut-eye.
New studies show that those who are under stress and don't get enough shut-eye could age up to 6 times faster than they would otherwise, giving a whole new meaning to the term beauty rest.
For others, losing shut-eye can result in hormonal imbalance, illness, and in extreme cases, death.
Now let's do a shadowing exercise so you can repeat after me and practice all these pronunciation changes. I'll say each sentence and you need to repeat after me. And I'll say each sentence 3 times. Keep your eyes peeled for the street. Keep your eyes peeled for the street. Keep your eyes peeled for the street. Are we still on for tonight? Are we still on for tonight? Are we still on for tonight? Is the museum walkable? Is the museum walkable? Is the museum walkable? Let's head out early to beat the traffic. Let's head out early to beat the traffic. Let's head out early to beat the traffic. I tried to get a little shut-eye on the break. I tried to get a little shut-eye on the break. I tried to get a little shut-eye on the break. Amazing job. Now let's make this lesson a little more challenging. You'll see a sentence with a blank and you'll listen to a real-world TV clip to complete the sentence. Our first listening exercise, whatever she, you need to complete the sentence, I'll play it 3 times.
Whatever she dishes out, you can give it right back double. Whatever she dishes out, you can give it right back double. Whatever she dishes out, you can give it right back double.
How'd you do with this one? Whatever she dishes out. Our phrasal verb is to dish out. Now let's review how to use this phrasal verb. To dish out. This simply means to criticize. So when you criticize someone or something, you say something negative about it. For example, she really dished it out to Tom at the meeting. She really criticized Tom at the meeting. Now notice I said dished it out. What's the it? The it represents the criticism. She dished out the criticism. She dished it out to Tom. And we always use this expression with criticism, so you don't need to specify that it. I'm sharing this phrasal verb with you because we have a very common expression in English. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. You can dish it out, which means you freely give criticism to others, but you can't take it. Which means if somebody tries to criticize you, you do not accept that, you become very upset or very angry. So if someone is being very critical, you might say, well, you can dish it out, but can you take it? Can you receive the criticism that you're giving? It's a way to remind someone that maybe you shouldn't criticize others. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. Amazing job. Now pay close attention because at the end of this lesson, I'm going to quiz you to make sure you really know how to use these phrasal verbs. Let's do this listening exercise again. Here's your sentence. And you need to complete the sentence. I'll play it 3 times.
We're all just muddling through, aren't we? We're all just muddling through, aren't we? We're all just muddling through, aren't we?
How'd you do with this one? We're all just muddling through. Let's learn how to use to muddle through. This is when you do or achieve something accidentally without a specific plan. For example, I muddled through making the cake. So maybe I had no idea how to make this cake. I didn't know the procedure. I didn't feel prepared. I muddled through making the cake, but it was actually quite delicious. So sometimes when you muddle through something, the result isn't very positive because you don't actually have a plan. Other times, it can be positive in the end. Amazing job. Number 3. Here's your sentence. You need to complete the sentence. I'll play it 3 times.
I'm excited to nerd out on it. I'm excited to nerd out on it. I'm excited to nerd out on it.
He's excited to nerd out on. This is a fun phrasal verb. Let's learn how to use it. To nerd out. Oh, I love this one. When you nerd out on something, it means you discuss it in great detail. Greater detail than the average person would normally do. For example, I can nerd out on sentence structure all day. I can discuss sentence structure, English sentence structure all day. But my friends who are native English speakers have no interest in discussing English sentence structure. To them, that is boring. But to me as an English teacher, and most likely to you as an English learner, we can nerd out on the English language all day. I can also nerd out on plants, talking about plants, different types of plants, looking at plants. I really love plants as well, but the average person probably doesn't want to discuss it in as much detail as I do. What about you? What's something that you could nerd out on? Nerd out on this specific topic all day. Share that in the comments. Number 4, complete the sentence. I'll play it 3 times.
Of course I'll stick around. Of course I'll stick around. Of course I'll stick around.
Of course, I'll stick around. Let's learn how to use this. To stick around. This is a very common phrasal verb, and it simply means to remain in a place for a period of time. Let's say you just finished dinner with a friend at a restaurant and you drove, but your friend took the bus. So you can just get in your car and leave, but your friend has to wait until the bus comes. So you could say, oh, don't worry, I'll stick around until the bus comes. I'll stay with you at this specific location, the restaurant or the bus stop, until the bus comes. Or let's say you're in the mall and it's raining outside. You might say, well, let's just stick around until it stops raining. So let's stay at this specific location until it stops raining. You'll absolutely use this in your daily speech and hear native speakers using this one all the time. Number 5, I'll play it 3 times.
Wash up for dinner, guys. Wash up for dinner, guys. Wash up for dinner, guys.
Did you get this one? Wash up for dinner. Let's review this phrasal verb. To wash up. This simply means to clean your hands, to wash your hands, and or to wash your face. So before dinner, you could say, oh, I just need to wash up. And most likely you're going to wash your hands. And I commonly say this in the evening before I watch a movie. I could say to my husband, oh, just give me 5 minutes to wash up before we start the movie. And for me, it's to wash my face because I love taking off my makeup before I watch a movie. It's a lot more comfortable. So women might use the wash up for our face more frequently. So it can be for both hands and face. Number 6, here's your sentence. Let's see if you can complete it. I'll play it 3 times.
Now make sure if you leave, you lock up the house. Now make sure if you leave, you lock up the house. Now make sure if you leave, you lock up the house.
How'd you do with this one? Now make sure if you leave, you lock up the house. Very good advice. Let's review this one. To lock up. This is when you securely close your windows and doors or entrances to your house or building. So it's another way of simply saying lock. For example, make sure you lock up before bed. And in that case, it's in your home, and that's of course good advice. But if you work in a building, someone is likely responsible for locking up at the end of the workday. So one person might be responsible for making sure that all the entrances to that building are securely closed or locked. So for example, Sally is responsible for locking up. Number 7, we're going to review one of my favorite TV shows, Parks and Rec. Let's see if you can complete this sentence.
And while he was yammering on about whatever. And while he was yammering on about whatever. And while he was yammering on about whatever.
How'd you do with this one? And while he was yammering on. Let's review this. To yammer on. This is when you talk continuously in an annoying way. For example, I ran into Kate at the mall and she yammered on for hours and I missed my bus. So I ran into Kate, I saw Kate, but I wasn't expecting to see her. I saw her accidentally. I ran into Kate at the mall and she yammered on, oh, hi, Jennifer. I'd love to tell you about my vacation. And then 10 minutes later, she's still talking about her vacation and she doesn't realize that I'm not that interested in her vacation, or I'm just busy and need to leave. To yammer on. Number 8, they've been, let's listen 3 times.
They've been mouthing off to me. They've been mouthing off to me. They've been mouthing off to me.
Did you get this one? They've been mouthing off to me. Oh no. Let's review this one. To mouth off. When you mouth off to someone, you speak to that person in a disrespectful way or in an angry way. So this is something that kids, especially teenagers, do to their parents. And when I was a teenager, if I mouthed off to my parents, I would be grounded. When you're grounded, this means that certain privileges are taken away from you. So if you're grounded, maybe you can't go to the movies with your friends, you can't use the car, you can't use the computer, privileges you would normally have in the house.
You're grounded.
You're grounded. And as adults, we also don't want to mouth off to certain people like our boss or an authority figure like a police officer. Is definitely not a good idea to mouth off. Number 9, yeah, but I. Let's listen 3 times.
Yeah, but I maxed out my credit card. Yeah, but I maxed out my credit card. Yeah, but I maxed out my credit card.
Did you get this one? Yeah, but I maxed out my credit card. Uh-oh. Let's review this. To max out. When you max something out, it means you take that something to a limit. For example, I maxed out my credit cards on vacation. So your credit card has a limit, maybe $10,000. If you maxed out that credit card, it means that you spent $10,000, the maximum amount, the limit of that credit card. Likely not the best idea. And finally, number 10, this is a fun one. Let's listen 3 times.
I'm loading up on carbs. I'm loading up on carbs. I'm loading up on carbs.
How'd you do? I'm loading up on carbs. Let's learn how to use this. To load up on. When you load up on something, it means you consume a lot of that something, or you purchase a lot of that something for a specific purpose. So let's say you're an athlete. Right before a race or a competition, you might load up on carbs. Carbs are carbohydrates, energy for your body. So you want to consume a lot of carbs. Jim loaded up on carbs before the race. Or you could say we loaded up on toilet paper because it was on sale. So we purchased a large amount of toilet paper because it was on sale. So now you have 10 new phrasal verbs, plus you've improved your listening skills of real English. So are you ready for your quiz? Here are the questions. Hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready for the answers, hit play. How'd you do with that quiz? Let's find out. Here are the answers. Hit pause, review them, and when you're ready, hit play. Are you ready to make the listening exercises even more challenging? You'll listen to clips from President Barack Obama, famous singer Taylor Swift, and famous comedian Jim Carrey. And these celebrities tell jokes, use informal speech, and use sarcasm. First, let's listen to President Barack Obama give a formal speech on a serious topic. But at the end, he makes a joke. Here's the first listening exercise. You need to complete the missing words. Let's listen 3 times.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense.
Did you complete the sentence? He said, I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. Now let's take a look at I've. This is a contraction of I have. So we say it as one word, I've. And it's a very unstressed pronunciation. Repeat after me, I've ordered. So notice this ED here is just a soft D. Ordered. Repeat after me, ordered. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate. Now here, a lot of native speakers will pronounce to when it's a preposition or part of the infinitive like it is here as a very unstressed to eliminate, Repeat after me, to eliminate. But Barack Obama does not do that here. He pronounces the full to. So to is the standard pronunciation and ta is the unstressed pronunciation that's commonly used by natives in natural speech, which is why it can be difficult for you to understand us. Now let's look at don't make sense, because he didn't pronounce those final voiced sounds, specifically the T, don't. Notice he didn't say don't, he just said don't. And then make, you didn't hear that K, it was just make. And that makes the pronunciation smoother, which is why it sounds like we're talking very fast. Now, let's move on and talk about the word eliminate. Grammatically, you use eliminate plus a noun or a gerund because you eliminate something. And this means to completely remove or get rid of. Remember this. It might help you in the future of this lesson, get rid of. So for example, we eliminated plastic bags. This is the something, the noun. If you wanted to use a verb, remember it's the gerund. We eliminated using plastic bags. Or you might say, Jennifer helps me eliminate my mistakes, the noun. Or you could say, these lessons help me eliminate my mistakes. Again, the noun. So do you agree with that? If you do, put that's right in the comments. Now let's continue on with the speech. So you need to complete the missing word. You'll hear it 3 times.
We've already announced over 500 reforms. We've already announced over 500 reforms. We've already announced over 500 reforms.
How'd you do with this one? He said, we've already announced over 500 reforms. So notice another contraction. We've is a contraction of we have. Repeat after me, we've. We've already announced, we have already announced. What's the grammar here? What verb tense is this? It's the present perfect, and it's being used because this is a completed past action. The 500 reforms, that's complete, that's done. But this is an ongoing time reference. So it's possible to announce more reforms. At 500, it can increase and be 505 or 510 in the future because it's ongoing. Now let's talk about the word over 500 reforms. So how many reforms? Well, we know it was more than 500, but we don't know the exact amount because when you say over or more than 500, it might be 501 or it might be 525. We don't know because it's unspecified, but it's more than over 500. Let's keep going. You need to complete the missing words. You'll hear it 3 times.
And just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. And just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. And just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years.
Did you complete the sentence? He said, and just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. Let's talk about a fraction of them. A fraction of means a small number or a small portion of them. In this case, the reforms. You could say, I know 100 phrasal verbs. That sounds amazing, right? 100 phrasal verbs. But then if you add, but that's just a fraction of them. Them is the phrasal verbs. It represents the phrasal verbs. But if you say a fraction of, it means a small number or a small portion. So even though 100 sounds large, it doesn't sound very large compared to how many phrasal verbs there are. Let's talk about the pronunciation of them, because there's a strong pronunciation, which is them, but there's also a weak and unstressed pronunciation, them. So it's just that vowel sound that sounds more relaxed and unstressed. This is another reason why native speakers can be difficult to understand, because there are these differences in pronunciation, especially in natural spoken English, which Barack Obama, even though he's the president at this time and he's giving a formal speech, he still is a native speaker. So of course he's going to use natural pronunciation patterns. Now let's look at over the next 5 years. The word over represents between now and 5 years from now. So that time frame is over. You could say, I learned a lot of phrasal verbs over the weekend. So that means the entire time reference from start to finish, and that time reference is the weekend. This is very commonly used in daily speech. You could say, we discussed how to improve our speaking skills over coffee. So you can do something over coffee, over dinner. And that means while we were having coffee. So your coffee has a time reference, a time when you started coffee and a time when you ended coffee. And that period of time is over coffee. Let's continue on with the speech. This is a longer section and there are 2 parts to complete. You'll hear it 3 times.
We got rid of one rule from 40 years ago that could have forced some dairy farmers to spend $10,000 a year proving that they could contain a spill. We got rid of one rule from 40 years ago that could have forced some dairy farmers to spend $10,000 a year proving that they could contain a spill. We got rid of one rule from 40 years ago that could could have forced some dairy farmers to spend $10,000 a year proving that they could contain a spill.
Did you hear all the missing words? He said, we got rid of, remember, I told you to remember that, we got rid of one rule from 40 years ago that could have forced some dairy farmers to spend $10,000 a year proving that they could contain a spill. Got rid of, let's talk about the pronunciation here. We're going to use connected speech where we take individual words and it sounds like one word. So I'm going to say got rid of. So notice at the end, you can take the word of and you can make it an unstressed sound and say duh. So instead of but we're taking that D sound from rid. Got rid of or got rid of. Dove. Dove is the full sound and duh is the unstressed. And remember that to get rid of means eliminate. We already talked about that. Now let's take a look at could have, because we have the auxiliary verb have, but you can also turn this into an unstressed of. And the same rule applies. You can use duh and say coulda, or you can use dove and say could've, because you're taking that D from could. Coulda, could've. What about this sentence? We could have eliminated the rule. This sentence is grammatically incorrect because the correct sentence is we could have eliminated the rule. Remember that these pronunciation changes, changing have to of, only applies to spoken English. It doesn't apply to written English. So you can verbally say coulda, but in writing, it's considered grammatically incorrect. Let's keep going. Here's the next sentence to complete. You'll hear it 3 times.
Because milk was somehow classified as an oil. Because milk was somehow classified as an oil. Because milk was somehow classified as an oil.
Did you get this one? He said because milk was somehow classified as an oil. I found his pronunciation was quite clear. Do you agree with me here? So let's just look at some vocabulary. Let's look at classified as. To be classified as is the full structure you need, and classified means categorized or designated as something. So you could say phrasal verbs are classified as advanced. You need that word as something, as advanced. Now let's review somehow. In this context, it means that the reasoning or the method, it isn't obvious or it's difficult to understand. So how could milk be classified as oil? That's difficult to understand. So that's why they use somehow. You can use this in your daily speech. You can say, she somehow got the promotion. So just by adding that word somehow, you're questioning why or how she got the promotion. So it takes a statement that sounds positive, she got the promotion, and it actually turns it into more of a negative statement by saying she somehow got the promotion. Now it's the fun part. You're going to hear President Barack Obama make a joke. So you need to complete the missing words and you need to understand why this is funny. Let's see if you can do that. You'll hear it 3 times.
With a rule like that, I guess it was worth crying over spilled milk. With a rule like that, I guess it was worth crying over spilled milk. With a rule like that, I guess it was worth crying over spilled milk.
So, did you complete the missing words? Did you hear the joke? Did you understand the joke? If you did, your English is excellent. He said, with a rule like that, I guess it was worth crying over spilled milk. Before we talk about why this is funny, let's review some pronunciation points. So first let's take a look at rule. Notice here there are two sounds. We have rule, so that dark L, rule, rule. So if I pronounce this fully, you hear those two sounds, rule. In a more unstressed pronunciation, it won't be as obvious, rule, ool. It's there, but it's very quick, rule, rule. But it is best to make sure you have those two sounds. Now let's take a look at spilled, because there's a difference between British and American English. In American English, we only use the word spilled, the spilled. In British English, there's an alternative word that's spelled differently because it's spelled with a T and it's pronounced that way. So it's just the end. In American English, it's always spilled, a soft D, but in British English, it's spilt, spilt. So you might hear spilled, you might hear spilt. But those final sounds aren't pronounced fully in spoken English in both British and American English. Just like in here, you didn't hear the end sound for the word that. It was more of a that. So you just don't press out that final T, that. And milk sounded like milk. So did you hear that the final K sound, that K, was not pronounced? It was just a milk, milk. So you put your tongue in the position of a K, milk, but you just don't push out that sound. Milk, milk. All right, now let's talk about the joke. The style of this joke is called a pun or a play on words. So it's a humorous use of one word or one phrase that has several meanings or that sounds like another word. In this case, you need to know that there's a proverb in English and perhaps in your culture as well. The proverb is, don't cry over spilled milk. If you don't know what this proverb is, the joke probably wouldn't make sense to you. So this proverb, don't cry over spilled milk, means don't get upset over minor issues or minor mistakes, like spilling a glass of milk. It's not worth getting upset over. So you might say, I made a grammar mistake when I was presenting the report, but you're very upset over this. And your friend, your colleague could say, don't cry over spilled milk. It's a grammar mistake. But notice here, Obama said it was worth crying over spilled milk. So Obama is saying that the farmers should be upset over paying $10,000 a year on something silly like proving they can contain a milk spill. Because remember, milk was somehow classified as an oil. So now you understand the joke. Now let's look at was worth crying, because grammatically you need to be worth plus gerund, your verb and ing. You could say it was worth watching this class, and hopefully you agree with that. Now grammatically you could also say something to be worth something. For example, this class was worth it. The it represents something. What is the something? Well, this class was worth watching. So the watching is the it. So now you can impress your friends because you understand that joke. Let's move on and listen to actor and comedian Jim Carrey, who uses a lot of sarcasm to get the audience laughing. We'll listen 2 times now that your listening skills are better, and you'll complete the missing words. Here's your first listening exercise.
Please welcome 2-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey. Please welcome 2-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey.
How did you do? The announcer said, please welcome 2-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey. Did you hear 2-time, or did you write down or say 2 times with an S? Grammatically, you need 2 time, because this is an adjective, and adjectives don't have plural forms. Nouns have singular and plural forms. Of course, you could say, I watched this lesson 2 times with the S because it's the noun. And I certainly hope you do watch this lesson 2 times because you will learn a lot the second time as well. So put that's right, put that's right in the comments if you're going to watch it 2 times. Now let's discuss please welcome. This is of course a polite way to welcome someone. You could also say let's welcome, let's welcome. This is casual and natural, and you can also use this to welcome someone. For example, everyone, please welcome Maria to the team. Or everyone, let's welcome Maria to the team. The second one sounds more casual. Also notice that these examples are in the imperative form. They start with the base verb, and this is used for orders, instructions, or requests. So you can think of this as a request. So I could say to you, perhaps as an instruction, download the base verb, so it's the imperative, download the free lesson PDF. The link is in the description, so please do this. Now let's review your next listening exercise. You need to complete this sentence.
Thank you. I am 2-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night, thank you. I am 2-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night.
How did you do? He said, thank you. I am 2-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. And when I go to sleep at night. Now notice how he said, and when I. Was that difficult for you to hear? Those sounds really blend together. And just becomes And when just becomes an unstressed when. So you just don't open your mouth as much. When. And then you combine them together. And when I. So that and is almost dropped. And when I. Now let's talk about go to sleep. He pronounced this quite clearly, but a native speaker might say goda, because that T between 2 vowels becomes a soft D. Goda, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. Now let's talk about the sentence structure. Notice we have when plus subject plus present simple. This is used with a future action. I see many mistakes with this. When I improve, not the future simple, the present simple. When I improve my listening skills, so how would you complete this sentence? What verb do you need? You need the future simple to complete the sentence. For example, when I improve my listening skills, I'll watch, I will. A native speaker will say all, a very unstressed, I'll watch your lessons without subtitles. Notice the expression go to sleep. You can also say go to bed. Both are very commonly used. Go to sleep, go to bed. But don't say go to my sleep or my bed or the sleep, the bed. You don't need a possessive or an article. And notice those different prepositions. In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. But what happens with night? At night, at night. So let's continue this clip, and when I go to sleep at night, what does he say next? Let's find out.
You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm 2-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey going to get some well-needed shut-eye. You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm 2-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey going to get some well-needed shut-eye.
Did you get those missing words? Going to get some well-needed shut-eye. Did you get that? What is shut-eye? Well, maybe you understand just based on the context that it's sleep. Now in this case, shut-eye and sleep are both nouns. You can say, let's get some shut-eye. Let's get some sleep. So that's another way of suggesting, let's go to sleep. Let's get some sleep. But remember, sleep is of course used as a verb. I hope you sleep well. But shut-eye is only a noun. Now, using our imperative, maybe you have a newborn baby and you say, please, please sleep tonight. I desperately need some shut-eye. Now, well needed, notice he added well needed shut-eye. This is an adjective. It means very much needed. You could also say well deserved, which means very much deserved. For example, after working for 10 hours, I took a well-deserved break. I deserved this break very much. So it's an adjective that modifies the noun. Now, let me ask you, have you noticed that the audience is laughing a lot, but Jim Carrey isn't telling jokes? So why is the audience laughing? Do you know? The audience is laughing because Jim Carrey is mocking his importance and success. Do you know what the verb to mock means? Other synonyms are to tease, to make fun of, to poke fun at. But this can be done in a light-hearted way, like Jim Carrey is doing. Jim Carrey is mocking his importance and success in a light-hearted way. But what if you say, my coworkers mock my accent nonstop? So mock is your verb. You need to conjugate it. Now, this can also be in a mean-spirited way. So lighthearted is positive, and then the opposite is mean-spirited, which is negative. Now remember, the audience is filled with celebrities, so he's also mocking their importance and success. So he's saying he goes to sleep just like everyone else despite having 2 Golden Globes. That's why everyone is laughing. Now let's continue on. Here's your next listening exercise.
And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream.
Did you get those missing words? I don't just dream any old dream. Did you hear how old dream sounded? You definitely don't want to say old. You want to say ol, ol. So drop that D, ol, but then attach it to the noun, old dream, old dream. Now you combine this with any because that's the expression, any ol. So you can use that Y to transition to the next word, which is a vowel, ol. Any ol, any ol, any old dream, any old dream. Now, this is an expression, any old plus noun, pronounced as any old, means random or unimportant. So we commonly use this in the negative. You can't just buy any old dress. You can't just buy some random dress, some unimportant dress. You can't just buy any old dress. This is your wedding. You need a spectacular dress. Let's keep going. Here's your next listening exercise.
I dream about being 3-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey. I dream about being 3-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey.
Did you get all the missing words? I dream about being 3-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey. And of course, notice that 3-time, you already heard that. So let's talk about to dream about. Notice that you can have a gerund or a noun. So it's very common to ask, what did you dream about last night? What did you dream about last night? Now to answer this, you can use a clause, which is subject, verb, object, and you can add that before the clause, which is optional. So it's not required. You could say, I dreamed, because dream is a verb, so you conjugate it. I dreamed that, optional. Now our clause, I dreamed that I was Jim Carrey. It was so weird. Now notice that to dream of, a different preposition, of, plus gerund or noun. This is used differently. It's used to talk about your desires, your aspirations, or goals. For example, I dream of, gerund, I dream of speaking English fluently and confidently. But if you say, I dream about speaking in English with natives, this means you have this vision while asleep. Now again, did you notice that the audience was laughing a lot? Well, the audience is laughing because still, Jim Carrey is mocking his desire, but then therefore the audience's desire for even more success and importance. Everyone in the audience wants to win that Golden Globe. They desperately hope their name will be called, and he's downplaying the importance of it. Do you know what to downplay means? This means to make something seem less important or significant than it actually is. But often we use this as advice to not do this because people downplay their success. For example, your friend might say, or a family member might say, I got a promotion, but it's no big deal. It's no big deal. They're downplaying their promotion. So you can say, don't downplay your success, which is the imperative and the negative. Don't downplay your success. You earned that promotion. Let's keep going. Here's your listening exercise.
Because then I would be enough. It would finally be true. And I could stop this terrible search. And I could stop this terrible search.
Did you get all the missing words? And I could stop this terrible search. Oh, Jim Carrey, he's the best. So again, he's clearly mocking the importance of winning a Golden Globe. And also remember that everyone in the audience wants to win, maybe desperately wants to win. So they're laughing at themselves because they identify with what he's saying. Now, he's saying, I would be enough if I won 3 Golden Globes. Because remember, he dreams about becoming 3-time Golden Globe winner. This is your second conditional, which is used for hypothetical or unreal situations. So we have if plus past simple, and then would plus base verb. If I improved my English, I would travel more. But at this point, it's hypothetical and unreal. If I won a 3rd Golden Globe, I would stop this terrible search. Now, this is almost an incomplete sentence because it doesn't tell you what he's searching for, but it's implied. Everyone in the audience knows, I know what he's searching for. Do you know? Do you know what Jim Carrey is searching for? Well, he's searching for meaning, for importance, and he'll finally get that sense of importance if he wins a 3rd Golden Globe. So this is again why it's funny. He's mocking this desire for more, for more, for more. Now notice you can use could in conditionals to express possibility. He could also say, I could stop searching. Stop searching, because after stop, you want your gerund verb to mean that you no longer do the action. So for you, maybe you say, I stopped using subtitles because I now understand fast English. That's amazing. Let's keep going. The next listening exercise.
For what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. For what I know ultimately won't fulfill me.
Did you hear everything he said? For what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. Now notice how a native could pronounce for what I know, combining those sounds together. For what I know, for what I know. So for becomes an unstressed fur. We don't pronounce that D on what So it sounds like a soft D, but then you add that D to the next sound, which is I, the subject I, but it's the same pronunciation as I. So you add that D before I for would I, die. And then no is the same pronunciation as the word no, the opposite of yes, for what I know, for what I know. Now, fulfill, we'll talk about the meaning of this. Native speakers often drop that first L, I do, and say fulfill, So instead of saying full, ol, with that dark L, we commonly say fulfill. It's a lot easier to say, isn't it? And that's what I personally say. So to fulfill, this means to satisfy or to make someone happy. Now there are many different sentence structures. You can say, my job fulfills me. So this is the active form of the verb. The verb is fulfill, so you conjugate it. In this case, my job. My job fulfills me. You could change the subject, her job fulfills her. Or you can say, I feel fulfilled with that ed, it's the adjective form, by my job. I'm fulfilled by my job. Or you can say, I find being a teacher very fulfilling. So you can find something or find doing something fulfilling. So basically, Jim Carrey is saying at the Golden Globe Awards, in front of all these people who desperately want to win, I know winning another Golden Globe, his third Golden Globe, won't fulfill me. It won't satisfy me. It won't make me happy. Now let's hear Jim Carrey's final words of wisdom. You need to complete the missing words. Let's listen now.
But these are important, these awards. But these are important, these awards.
Did you get his final words of wisdom? But these are important, these awards. For pronunciation, but just has that flat T. But. So you just don't push out that sound for the T. And then you need to connect it with the other words. But these are. So you can take R and make it an unstressed That's what native speakers commonly do. But these are important. But again, it connects to the next word as well. But these are important, these awards. Now, grammatically, why would he say, but these are important, these awards? He's doing this to remind you what the subject is. The subject being these awards. Of course, grammatically, the standard is to say, but these awards are important. But notice he said these are important, but then he's just reminding you what these are. So this is often done as an afterthought. For example, I could say, this is due today, the final report. And then I might realize, oh, well, maybe you don't know what this is, or I just want to clarify. I want to be very direct and clear. So this is due today, the final report. So I'm just adding the subject on at the end. Remember that but or however, they have the same meaning. However is slightly more formal, but is everyday. But however introduces a contrast, meaning there has to be some opposite idea. Maybe something is positive and negative, good or bad, right or wrong. There has to be some sort of contrast. So the contrast here is he's mocking winning an award. His entire beginning part of the speech is mocking winning an award. So we can consider that to be a negative. So now to successfully use but, you have to have a contrasting idea. So you have to have something positive. So to form that contrast and use but successfully, he says these awards are important.
Please welcome two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey.
Thank you. I am two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey, going to get some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. I dream about being 3-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey. Because then I would be enough. It would finally be true. And I could stop this terrible search for what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. But these are important, these awards.
Now let's listen to Taylor Swift's commencement speech at NYU. And she uses a lot of formal and informal speech. Here's the sentence. You'll hear it 3 times.
No matter how hard you try to avoid being cringe, you will look back on your life and cringe retrospectively. No matter how hard you try to avoid being cringe, you will look back on your life and cringe retrospectively. No matter how hard you try to avoid being cringe, you will look back on your life and cringe retrospectively.
How'd you do? She said, no matter how hard you try to avoid being cringe, you will look back on your life and cringe retrospectively. Let's talk about the grammar, because notice avoid, then you have a gerund verb. Avoid being cringe. And of course, to avoid is to stay away from someone or something because it makes you uncomfortable, perhaps. You could say, I've been avoiding. Notice that present perfect continuous is started in the past and continues until now. I've been avoiding speaking English in public because I'm worried about being cringe. Also notice here, you worry about something, a noun, or doing something, speaking in public, the gerund verb, because about is a preposition. You could say, I'm worried about the exam, or a gerund verb, I'm worried about failing the exam. Now let's talk about that word we've used a lot, cringe. This is colloquial, but very commonly used, and it means to behave in a way that causes embarrassment, awkwardness, or discomfort, either to yourself or others.
Oh my god, it was so cringe, wasn't it?
Okay, that is so cringe. That is so cringe. You just don't do that.
So it makes sense you would want to avoid being cringe. Let's look at to look back on your life. If you look back on something, it means you reflect on it. And in this case, your life. Now let's talk about this and cringe. Do you notice something different perhaps? It's the same word, but in this case, it's a verb. So the verb is to cringe. And this is to feel a strong emotional reaction of embarrassment or awkwardness. And we generally show this physically or visibly. What I just did, that is cringe. I just cringed. Here's a real example for you. I cringe when I look back on, when I reflect on my very first YouTube video, which as you can see is maybe a little cringe. So she uses colloquial language and advanced vocabulary retrospectively in the same sentence. So if you do something retrospectively, it means you think about past events. You could say retrospectively, thinking about past events, I wish I had started speaking English much sooner. Another way to say this is in hindsight or looking back. You could also say looking back on it being the situation in the past. So now you have colloquial and advanced vocabulary. Our next listening exercise, you need to complete the sentence with the missing words. You'll hear it 3 times.
Cringe is unavoidable over a lifetime. Even the term cringe might someday be deemed cringe. Cringe is unavoidable over a lifetime. Even the term cringe might someday be deemed cringe. Cringe is unavoidable over a lifetime. Even the term cringe might someday be deemed cringe.
How'd you do? She said cringe is unavoidable over a lifetime. Even the term cringe might someday be deemed cringe. You've certainly heard the word cringe a lot. So let's look at to be deemed something. This is the same as to be regarded as or judged as. So notice all 3 of these use the verb to be. For example, colloquial language is deemed slang by some, maybe you, but natives use it in daily speech in all situations, which is why it's important to learn the most common colloquial language. Now remember, you can use regarded or judged, but you need that preposition as. Colloquial language is regarded as, judged as, slang by some, and the rest is exactly the same. Now notice she used that modal verb, might be deemed. You need your modal plus base verb, which is why we have be, might be deemed. If something might happen, it's saying that it's not certain. There's some doubt. You could say, I might fail, base verb. I might fail my listening exam. That's why these exercises are so important. Our next listening exercise, complete the sentence with the missing words.
You can't avoid it, so don't try to. You can't avoid it, so don't try to. You can't avoid it, so don't try to.
How'd you do? She said, you can't avoid it, so don't try to. Now, what does the it represent in this sentence? The it represents being cringe, because remember, you need that verb in ing. You can use avoid plus noun. You can't avoid the exam, or you use that gerund verb. You talk about the action. You can't avoid taking the exam. I would summarize Taylor's advice to you as embrace being cringe, embrace it. What do you think? Do you agree with that? Put let's go, put let's go in the comments. Now let's move on and listen to Donald Trump respond to a very interesting audience question during the previous presidential debate. And that audience question was, what's one thing you admire about Hillary Clinton? Here are the sentences. You need to complete the missing words. You'll hear it 3 times.
I will say this about Hillary. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I respect that. I tell it like it is. I will say this about Hillary. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I respect that. I tell it like it is. I will say this about Hillary. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I respect that. I tell it like it is.
How did you do? He said, I will say this about Hillary. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I respect that. I tell it like it is. Notice he said, I will. Native speakers will commonly form a contraction and say all. Notice how unstressed that is. All. I'll say this about Hillary. I'll say this. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'll help you. Now this expression, I'll say this about Hillary, this is used to introduce a statement or opinion. Another way of saying this is, here's what I have to say about Hillary. You could say, I'll say this about learning English with native speakers, and then you introduce your opinion. It's a very effective method. Do you think so? if you do put that's right in the comments. Now let's talk about she doesn't quit, she doesn't give up. So notice here, he used the contracted form, does not, doesn't. Repeat after me, doesn't, doesn't. Now let's talk about quit and give up, because they can be interchangeable, but they can also have different meanings. It depends on context. Quit means to leave a position, such as your job, or to stop something permanently, such as learning English. So in terms of a position, you may know that Joe Biden quit the presidential race. He left it permanently. Now, if you've had enough of your boss and working overtime without pay, you can say, I quit. You're permanently leaving that position. Now, give up means that you surrender, you lose hope. So you stop doing something, you quit because you surrender or lose hope. So you could say, I've been trying to improve my listening skills for years. I give up. So in this case, it means you're no longer going to try. You've just lost all hope that is possible for you. You could also say, I've been trying to improve my listening skills for years. Maybe I should just quit. You could continue on and specify the something. I should just quit learning English, but if it's implied and obvious, you don't need to say it. Your friend could respond back, or I would respond back and say, don't quit, don't give up. So here, although different vocabulary, it means the same thing. Keep going. Don't quit, don't give up. You just need to subscribe to JForrest English, so make sure you subscribe. Now let's talk about I respect that. What does that represent here? I respect Hillary's determination, her persistence. Those are the adjectives we can use to describe someone who doesn't quit, who doesn't give up. Those are the nouns we can use to describe the fact that she doesn't quit, she doesn't give up. Hillary's determination, she is determined. Hillary's persistence, she is persistent. You could say she keeps going despite setbacks. Or you could say she keeps going despite facing challenges, because you can use despite with a noun or a gerund. And setbacks and challenges, they represent the same thing. Now let's talk about I tell it like it is. This is a colloquial way of saying I'm being straightforward, I'm being honest, I'm being direct. This is often used before offering an area of improvement in a direct, perhaps harsh way. So I could say to you, your accent needs improving. I'm sorry, but I tell it like it is. I'm being 100% honest, direct, even if it might hurt your feelings. There's another word to describe this, which is to be blunt. So when you're blunt, it means you're very honest, even if it might offend someone or hurt someone's feelings. To be blunt, your accent needs improving. So you can use to be blunt at the very beginning, and then you offer critical feedback. So let's summarize Trump's advice. Don't quit, don't give up. What do you think about that? If you agree, if you're not going to quit or give up, then put let's go in the comments. Now let's move on and listen to Oprah Winfrey's commencement speech at Harvard. Here's the sentence. You need to complete the missing words. You'll hear it 3 times.
There is no such thing as failure. Failure is just life trying to move us in another direction. There is no such thing as failure. Failure is just life trying to move us in another direction. There is no such thing as failure. Failure is just life trying to move us in another direction.
Did you get this one? She said, there is no such thing as failure. Failure is just life trying to move us in another direction. We can form a contraction between there is and say theirs. Repeat after me, theirs, theirs. There's no such thing as. This means something doesn't exist or something isn't real. So said another way, failure doesn't exist. Using that contraction, does not. Failure doesn't exist. Failure isn't, is not. Failure isn't real. There's no such thing as perfect English. This is something I commonly say to my students. Said another way, perfect English doesn't exist. So don't worry about making mistakes. Native speakers make them too. Next, failure is just life trying to move us in another direction. So notice here, failure is, you could form a contraction, especially in spoken English, and say failures. Failures just life. Now, native speakers commonly link our sounds together. So you could see this with move us in. It may sound like one word, move us in, move us in. Repeat after me. Move us in. Now, move us in another direction. There's a very common expression to go in another direction. And this means to change your approach or plan. For example, I was going to enroll in a language school, but I went in another direction. I changed my plan, I changed my approach. And I subscribed to JForrest English. So let's summarize Oprah's advice. Failure doesn't exist. Do you agree with that? If you do, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. Now let's listen to native speakers from YouTube so you can listen to a variety of accents. Are you ready for the first clip? Remember, you need to fill in the missing words.
It's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks. It's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks.
How'd you do with this one? She said it's worth mentioning we're going to have to be pretty frank about the human body and some of the more icky parts when studying outbreaks. Did you get that? Let's review the pronunciation. So notice were. Native speakers like using contractions and we pronounce them in an unstressed way. Were. This is, of course, we are. Now she said going to, but as you may know, native speakers commonly reduce going to as gonna, but this is in spoken English only. Now, native speakers also combine sounds together. So here we have some of the. Instead of saying of, you can just do an unstressed some of the. So it sounds like one word. Repeat after me. Some of the. Let's talk about some grammar and vocabulary. Notice one of your missing words was mentioning, and that's because to be worth plus gerund verb. So I wanted to remind you, or perhaps help you learn, that you need the gerund with this expression. So worth is a gerund verb. To be worth, doing something. For example, it's worth to be. It is, as a contraction, it's worth subscribing to JForrest English. Now, if a friend asks you, should I subscribe to JForrest English? You can say, yes, it's worth it. It's worth it. What's the it? It's worth subscribing. So it represents the gerund. It's worth subscribing. And if you want to sound like a native, you can add totally. It's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Do you agree with that? If you do, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. And don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Let's talk about to be frank. Frank. This means to speak honestly, directly, or openly, often about something uncomfortable. We often use this to start a sentence. To be frank, I thought you were rude to your mother. So that might be something that's uncomfortable to tell someone. And she used pretty to be pretty frank. This is simply an intensifier. Now, did you hear the word icky? Icky? This is an informal way of something as unpleasant, gross, or distasteful. Cleaning the bathroom, ugh, it's so icky. Wouldn't you agree? Or you could say, you have some icky stuff on your shirt, some gross stuff. Are you ready for your next listening exercise? Remember, you need to complete the missing words. You'll hear it twice.
I've level with you. Before we started making this movie, I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life. I've level with you. Before we started making this movie, I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life.
Could you complete the missing words? I've got to level with you. Before we started making this movie, I'd never been on a pair of skis in my life. Just like going to becomes gonna, got to becomes gotta in spoken English. And again, those contractions which are difficult to hear, I had, a very soft D, I'd. Now, instead of saying of, you can reduce that to just simply but then combine them together. Paraskis. Now let's talk about those missing words. To level with someone. This means to share a surprising or harsh truth. A harsh truth is an uncomfortable truth. So you can say, I have to level with you. I don't like ice cream. Now, Americans commonly say, I gotta level with you. I gotta level with you. I have to level with you. I gotta level with you. They're the same thing. And the fact that I don't like ice cream could be a surprising truth. I gotta level with you. Or you can say, I have to level with you. I gotta level with you. Your performance has been slipping, going down, slipping. So this is a harsh truth. It's honest and direct. Because of that, you can also use that expression we learned, to be frank. I have to be frank with you. Your performance has been slipping. Here's your next listening exercise. You'll hear it twice.
I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what is the one thing I want to work on? I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what is the one thing I want to work on?
How'd you do with this one? Was it easy or difficult for you? I think a lot of people will reflect on their previous year and think, you know what? What is the one thing I want to work on? Let's talk about those pronunciation changes. A lot of becomes a lotta. Now, reflect on, because you have that T sound, you can transfer it to the next sound and say reflect on. So it sounds like one word. You can do this with work on. So it sounds like one word. You know what may have been difficult to hear because it becomes unstressed. Yeah, you know what? And want to becomes wanna. Now I wanted you to pay attention to reflect on and work on so you notice those prepositions. When you're learning vocabulary, you should also learn the preposition that completes the verb. Because if you get the preposition wrong, it won't sound correct. So to reflect on something, this means to think deeply or carefully about something, usually before making decisions. For example, after the meeting, I reflected on the feedback my boss gave me. Maybe he had to level with you. Maybe he had to give you some frank feedback, honest and direct. And you reflected on that, which is a mature thing to do. Let's talk about, you know what? This is an interjection. So it's used to introduce a thought, or it's simply to create a pause in a conversation. So you can say, we should host a party for your sister's birthday, but that might sound very abrupt. So if you want to transition or create a pause, introduce an idea, you can use an interjection. You know what? We should host a party for your sister's birthday. So by saying, you know what, you get someone's attention and then they're ready to hear your idea. Get ready for the next listening exercise. You'll hear it twice.
Watch this video and get the scoop on a little-known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message. Watch this video and get the scoop on a little-known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message.
Was this more difficult for you? Watch this video and get the scoop on a little-known storytelling technique that'll crank up the believability of your message. Instead of saying scoop on with pauses, you can pronounce this as one word. Scoop on-a, scoop on-a, scoop on-a, scoop on-a. Little may have been difficult to hear because that's not how native speakers say it. We say little, little. That'll is a contraction of that will, that'll. Let's review the vocabulary. The scoop, do you know this one? This means insider information or the latest secret or exclusive details. Can you get the scoop on who's getting the promotion? So I'm asking you to get the exclusive information or the latest secret details. Or I could ask what? What's the scoop on the promotion? Do you know the latest details? Or I could say, who knows the scoop on the promotion? So who has the secret or latest details? What if I said to you, ooh, it's cold in here. Crank up the heat. What would you do to the heat? Or how about, I love this song, crank it up, crank it up. What would you do? To crank up means to increase the intensity, volume, or level of something. Now in this case, the something was the believability, which is a noun. And this is the quality or state of being believable, which is the adjective. So to be believable. I could say to my friend, you didn't win the lottery? You were so believable. I believed my friend because she's believable. Or I could say, to be frank, the story lacked believability. So it lacked the quality of being believable. Or I could say, I have to level with you. I gotta level with you. The story lacked believability. So look for ways you can mix and match all the vocabulary that you're learning. One more listening exercise, you'll hear it twice.
All right, we've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time. All right, we've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time.
Did you get that first word? All right. We've been planning for months. Let's do it. It's go time. Now you may not have heard that first word again because of reducing sounds. So instead of saying all right, native speakers commonly say all right, all right, all right. So it can be very unstressed or a little bit unstressed. It depends on the speaker. This one was quite unstressed. We've is of course we have. For sounds like fur, very unstressed. And do it, to get rid of that pause, you can add a very soft w. Do it, do it, do it. But when you say it as one word, you don't hear it. Do it, do it, do it. All right is used as both an interjection or confirmation. So if someone says, let's meet at 2 to discuss the project, you can say, all right, to confirm. Or you can start the discussion by saying, all right, let's review the sales reports. So in this case, it's an interjection. It gets attention and it signals readiness to start. Let's look at let's do it. I say this a lot, so maybe you've heard it from me. This is an informal way to signal readiness to act. I could say, today you'll learn 20 phrasal verbs. Are you ready? And you can reply back and say, let's do it, Jennifer. Or your friend could ask you, should we sign up for that cooking class? And you say, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's look at it's go time. I love this one. This is an informal way to say, now is the time to act. This is the moment we've been waiting for. And it's commonly used with a lot of energy and excitement. So you can imagine before a sports game or a big presentation, someone says, it's go time. Are you ready for your biggest listening challenge yet? This is going to be a difficult section. You'll listen to celebrities telling each other jokes. If you laugh during this section, you're definitely fluent. First, you'll watch the clip of the joke without subtitles. Then you'll watch the clip with subtitles. And finally, we'll review the joke together. Here's the first joke.
What did the fried rice say to the shrimp?
Fry your rice.
Don't walk away from me. What did the fried rice say to the shrimp?
Fry your rice.
Don't walk away from me.
So, did you laugh? Make sure you keep track of your laugh score as we go through the jokes. Now, what did the fried rice say to the shrimp? Don't walk away from me. So, you cook fried rice with a wok, right? Now, the pronunciation of wok and walk are the same. So when I said them, it was the exact same word. Different spelling, same pronunciation, different meaning. So you could say, after we bought the wok, we went for a walk in the park. So this is only funny because those two words share the same pronunciation but different meanings. And that's why you have a high level of fluency if you understand these nuances. Joke number 2, here we go.
Did you hear Steve Harvey and his wife got into a fight?
That's not real, is it?
Yeah. It was a family feud. Did you hear Steve Harvey and his wife got into a fight?
That's not real, is it?
Yeah. It was a family feud.
So did you laugh? I like this joke because I grew up watching the show Family Feud. So to understand this joke, you need to understand the cultural reference. Did you hear that Steve Harvey, who is the host of a very popular TV show called Family Feud? So did you hear that Steve Harvey and his wife got into a fight? Now, you also have to know that a feud is a prolonged fight or conflict, and it can be within a family, like in this case, but it doesn't have to be. It can be within a business or within a neighborhood. So in this case, a family feud is used in 2 different ways. It's the name of the TV show, but the word feud also means a prolonged conflict or fight. So a classic example of a feud is Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet's tragic ending was the result of the feud between their families. So you could say because of their family feud. Now let's practice that pronunciation. Feud, 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 feud. Joke number 3.
Why couldn't the computer dance? He had no algorithm. Why couldn't the computer dance? He had no algorithm.
Did you get this one? Maybe this was a little easier to understand because the concept of algorithm is very well known. But did you notice the spelling was of the word rhythm? Rhythm. Now this is funny because having rhythm is key, is extremely important to dancing well. You can't dance well without rhythm. Now rhythm, it's the ability to move your body in sync with the music. So your body movements match the music. Now, algorithm, spelled differently again, but same pronunciation, and of course an algorithm represents computer instructions. Now let's just practice that pronunciation as well. Rhythm, rhythm. Our next joke.
How does a pilot take his sandwich? Plane. How does a pilot take his sandwich? Plain.
So did you laugh? Did you notice that spelling of the word plane? They spelled it as what a pilot flies, which is a plane. So of course a pilot flies a plane, and the word plane and plane again have the same pronunciation. Now in this case, a plain sandwich would mean a sandwich without any additional toppings or sauce. It isn't very common to ask for a plain sandwich, to be honest, but it is very common to ask for a plain hamburger, which would mean just the bun and meat. So no ketchup, no cheese, no tomatoes, just the bun and meat. That would be a plain hamburger. Or a plain pizza, which kids normally order, crust, sauce, and cheese, the core ingredients, nothing else. And noticed in the joke, they used the verb take, because that's how we ask someone, how do you take your coffee, or how do you take your tea, to ask, how do you want it prepared? So to answer, you would say, I take it, my coffee or tea, with milk and sugar. Or you can say, I take it black, which means plain. In this case, just coffee. I take it black. Joke number 5, I love this one. Let's watch it.
Hey son, did you hear the rumor about butter? Well, I'm not gonna spread it. Hey son, did you hear the rumor about butter? Well, I'm not gonna spread it.
So did you laugh? I hope you laughed. This is very funny because you spread butter on your toast, and that means to apply or distribute evenly. So that's the verb you use. But you also spread a rumor, which means to share or circulate that rumor. And a rumor is information or a story that may not be true or verified. For example, I heard they're getting divorced, but it could just be a rumor. So someone told you that, but you are not 100% sure if it's true. It's a rumor. And you shouldn't spread rumors around the office. Maybe that's what your coworker tells you. So what's your last score so far? Joke number 6, here we go.
Dad, did you get a haircut?
Oh, no, I got them all cut.
Dad, did you get a haircut?
Oh, no, I got them all cut.
I really loved this joke. I probably laughed the most with this one. A haircut is the act of getting your hair cut. So the noun is a haircut. But if you say a hair, a hair, that's the noun. This is a hair, and then cut is the verb. So you could say a hair and then the verb cut. Because remember, cut is an irregular verb. So all conjugations are cut, cut, cut. And then remember, I said a hair. Well, that represents, I don't know if you can see it, but one hair. So in the joke, did you get a hair, one single hair, cut? And then he replied back and said, no, I got all my hairs cut. This was very funny. Now, just keep in mind that hair is a collective noun. So you would say, ooh, there's some hair in my food. So notice hair is singular. You would not say there are 2 hairs in my food. You could say, ooh, there are 2 strands of hair in my food, but that's not very common. It would be more common to just say, ooh, there's hair in my food, to use the collective. Joke 7, here we go.
What do you call a guy that keeps my daughter out late on prom night?
What?
An ambulance! What do you call a guy that keeps my daughter out late on prom night?
What?
An ambulance!
Did you laugh? This is funny because you're expecting the answer to be a specific name, right? Because you call someone a name. But you can also call someone an ambulance if they're hurt. So in this case, call to request an ambulance. Now this is also funny because of the cultural context. Dads are protective of their young daughters overall, but especially on prom night, because in North America, prom night is often the time when young couples take their relationship to the next level, if you know what I mean.
On prom night, we conceived Lacey.
Joke number 8, here we go.
Why are women in such great shape? Because they run the world.
Boom.
You didn't even think about that. Your mind was in the gutter, right? Why are women in such great shape? Because they run the world.
Boom.
You didn't even think about that. Your mind was in the gutter, right?
You get this one, right? This is a cultural reference because Beyonce famously sang, "Who run the world? Girls." Now, yes, I know grammatically it should be runs. Beyonce knows that as well. Everyone knows that. But that's not the famous lyric. The famous lyric is run. Now, to be in great shape, this means you're very healthy and fit, but you can use any adjective. You can say, I'm in terrible shape, which means you're not healthy or fit. You can also say, I need to get in shape, which means I need to become healthy and fit. And of course, people who run as a form of exercise are healthy and fit, so they are in great shape. And then in Beyonce's song, run has a different meaning. It means to control, to be in charge of, to manage. For example, Claire runs our marketing strategy. She controls it. She's in charge of it. Joke number 9, can you laugh? Let's find out.
I took a quiz on Facebook called What's Your Spirit Animal? I got extinct. I took a quiz on Facebook called What's Your Spirit Animal? I got extinct.
I thought this was pretty funny because he's making fun of the fact that he's old. He's so old that his spirit animal is extinct, which of course means no longer living. And this is of course funny as well because it's not the answer the audience expected. They expected him to name a specific animal like a wolf or a bear or a penguin. Now notice here, I got extinct. In this case, got, the verb get in the past simple, is used to mean I received extinct. Get is used in many different ways. For example, which shirt did you get? Which shirt did you buy? Oh, I bought the blue one. Now you can also say, I received 9 out of 10 on the quiz. So you can share what you got on this laugh quiz at the end of the lesson. Joke number 10.
So my wife and I, we recently celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary. Oh, thanks. Thanks very much. Thank you. And I'm happily married. I know that I'm lucky because 50% of married people say they're unhappily married. This is according to a poll I took earlier today at my house. So my wife and I, we recently celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary. Oh, thanks. Thanks very much. Thank you. And I'm happily married. I know that I'm lucky because 50% of married people say they're unhappily married. This is according to a poll I took earlier today at my house.
I found this really funny. I don't know about you. And it was the build-up, the context that he gave. Now, if 50% of the people in his house are unhappily married, and he's happily married, remember he said that, well, that means his wife is unhappily married. Now, a poll, this is a survey. It's a questionnaire to get people's opinions. And notice that verb, you take a poll, which means to conduct a poll. So, how many times did you laugh? I have a bonus joke for you, and this is an English language and English teacher joke. I'll say it twice, first without subtitles, and then you can see the subtitles. Why did the comma break up with the sentence? It needed some space. I'll say it again. Why did the comma break up with the sentence? It needed some space. So did you laugh? My husband did not laugh at this joke, but obviously he is fluent. So the role of a comma in a sentence is to create space, to create a pause between your ideas. In my opinion, it's a good idea. So there, in my opinion, comma, you take a pause, you create space. But I need space is a common reason provided for a breakup. And in this case, space represents personal time, time alone to think and reflect on life. You also need to understand what it means to break up with someone. This means to end a romantic relationship. So maybe your friend says, "Are you and John coming to the party?" And you say, "Actually, we broke up. We ended our romantic relationship." You could say, "I broke up with John, I ended it," or "John broke up with me, John ended it." Now, the friend could say, "Why did you break up?" And you can say, "I don't know. He said he needed some space, some time alone away from me." How rude is that? So how many times did you laugh out of 11? Share your laugh score in the comments. And now that you understand the jokes, let's listen to them all again so you can keep laughing, and also share these jokes with your friends as well.
What did the fried rice say to the shrimp?
Fry your rice.
Don't walk away from me.
Did you hear Steve Harvey and his wife got into a fight?
That's not real, is it?
Yeah. It was a family feud.
Why couldn't the computer dance? He had no algorithm.
How does a pilot take his sandwich? Plane.
Hey, son, did you hear the rumor about butter? Well, I'm not going to spread it.
Dad, did you get a haircut?
Oh, no, I got them all cut.
What do you call a guy that keeps my daughter out late on prom night?
What?
An ambulance! Why are women in such great shape? Because they run the world.
Boom.
You didn't even think about that. Your mind was in the gutter, right?
I took a quiz on Facebook called "What's Your Spirit Animal?" I got extinct.
So my wife and I, we recently celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary. Oh, thanks. Thanks very much. Thank you. And I'm happily married. I know that I'm lucky because 50% of married people say they're unhappily married. This is according to a poll I took earlier today at my house.
Why did the comma break up with the sentence? It needed some space. Do you want me to make another lesson like this? If you do, put a laugh emoji in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.